Hey, Rich, love your show, buddy.
This is The Rich Eisen Show. Live from The Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
We're going to do this. If we can't do it, we'll let you know when we can. What are we looking to Roger Goodell to cure COVID-19? Is that what we're looking for?
Today's guests, Fox Sports college football analyst Bruce Feldman, ESPN NBA analyst Mark Jackson, three-time NBA champion BJ Amrstrong, Colorado Rockies outfielder Charlie Blackmon, and now it's Rich Eisen.
Well, hey, everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day weekend. Hope everybody is happy and healthy and safe. We are all of the above and pleased to be here in our Los Angeles studios on our YouTube stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. A good Monday morning also to those listening on Sirius XM Channel 211, Dan Patrick Show Radio. Bruce Feldman will be first up here in the middle of our first hour from Fox Sports. Also, The Athletic. Let's get an update on college football's possibility of playing this season. He had an interesting article about Reggie Bush and the name and likeness, I guess, reality that's coming to college football these days and how Reggie would have fit into it back in the day. And now the current day, my coach, Jim Harbaugh, putting out a letter on Friday to the free football world about maybe having a free exemption transfer year, and there's a lot going on in the college football world. Bruce Feldman will hit us on all of that. And good morning to Chris Brockman and Mike Del Tufo over at their posts.
Hey, buddy. What's happening?
And then the NBCSN show will get underway. We've just added Peter King to the list.
Oh, okay.
Because Peter spoke to Dr. Anthony Fauci of the National Institute of Health and talked to Dr. Fauci about the possibility of an NFL season being played this fall. The short answer was shrug emoji. The long answer is it's possible if testing and contact tracing can get to the point where you can figure out a certain player has tested positive. You could essentially do in a way what UFC did over the weekend, which is somebody tests positive, you remove them from the fray, you go on about your business. Let's see how UFC fares and all the fighters and all the people who are around the octagon over the weekend. And see how they are in a week to 10 days, essentially. I added that part. Dr. Fauci didn't say that, but essentially is what he told Peter King is something that we're going to get Peter on the show to try and break down for us. He was a late ad. I could see him already on with our friend Mike Tirico atop his show that we follow on NBCSN Lunch Talk Live. So I guess Peter will be making the rounds. So Mark Jackson and BJ Amrstrong will join us as the latest episodes of The Last Dance went down. And then today, supposedly, Major League Baseball is going to have a conference call with its ownership, getting set to place before the players an idea about coming back and playing. And, you know, it seems like their ideas have ranged from let's create these bubble communities either in Arizona where it'll be 100 degrees every day or in the state of Florida where, again, UFC just held its event and somebody pops for COVID and they were around other people and they're like, okay, just move that guy and let's keep going. That's what the state of Florida essentially did. So maybe Charlie Blackmon and the rest of the players will go for something like that. Or what I'm hearing is that teams will just be allowed to play in their home stadiums and play geographically sound opponents over and over again until enough games are played for a champion to be crowned, and then we play playoffs, and the players go about their business, just like what we're doing right now, Chris. We're coming to work. We're feeling healthy. We're going home. We're staying safe. We're social distancing. We're quarantining and then coming back in. And if, you know, well, that's just 6 of us. Can you do it with
40,
30 Major League Baseball teams? I mean, and players who are sitting around to try and take over for a player that's injured, somebody who's in AAA, somebody's on a 50-man roster. I mean, so we'll ask Charlie Blackmon what he's heard, what he's up to, and we love Chuck Nasty of the Colorado Rockies. That'll be later on in the show. Your phone calls throughout at 844-204-RICH. Let's start with The Last Dance, the latest episodes of The Last Dance.
Baby, let's
and
do it.
Every single Monday, we come on the air, and I sit here, and I give you my 2 cents about what we've just seen in the 2 previous episodes that aired the night before. And it's amazing how storylines that are 25, sometimes almost 30 years old, crop up and create new cycles, like the Dream Team and Isaiah Thomas and whether he was invited on it or not, or he was disinvited, or he was never invited, or something of that nature. And then you learn stuff years later, and it creates another news cycle, and it's fascinating. But the biggest story, finally, that we've been waiting for all Last Dance long, we finally got it last night, and that's something that everybody's talking about. Now you finally heard my voice at the end of episode 8. Wait a minute, I'm being told that's not what anybody's talking about. Just me.
Can we talk about that for a second? What was your level of, how do I phrase this? Were you bummed you didn't get to see your face?
Hold on a second. Let me just explain. I'm watching with Susie. We watch every weekend.
Sure.
It's at the end of a very long weekend.
Same.
But luckily, again, we're all happy and healthy in our household. But you know, at the end of a very long weekend with 3 kids, it's a lot. So we're like self-quarantining in a room, which is the 2 of us, and putting the kids on their handheld devices. We're fathers and mothers of the year, and we're watching, right? And I've been in this business actually, Susie's been in the business as long as I have, because she covered the 96 political conventions for Fox News.
Wow.
And that's when I started at ESPN, was 96. So we've been here, done that. But both of us, when we heard my voice, we looked at each other and went, hey! We're like, hey, wow, we just heard your voice on TV, and then realized, okay, we've kind of heard that before. But just hearing a 22 years ago voice.
Yeah. Well, because the Kilborn, they played
Kilborn
a little before you, and then you came in.
A lot of Linda Cohn.
Yeah, a lot of Linda.
Linda.
Dan's hair.
Dan's hair
gosh.
was magical. A lot of Charlie Steiner last night. A little Bob Lee, some Jack Edwards. Last night's 2 hours of The Last Dance.
Yeah.
But that's not what I guess anybody's talking about. We finally reached the point of the episodes of this documentary, which has been fantastic, where I think we finally drilled down and nailed down onto the spot where Michael Jordan into it said some people are going to think I'm an a-hole. We finally got to that part, and it's amazing how this is the conversation I'm already seeing on social media and shows in this genre. People sitting down in front of a microphone talking, although you and I don't split screen and have a bottom of the screen very often for a topic bar, Chris, but the conversation is Jordan a bad guy, a bad teammate, too much of an a-hole, too much of somebody who pushes? And the answer to this question is simple. They were even asked, is he a nice guy? And there was even at one point Jordan talking about how hard he pushed everybody and why he pushed everybody as hard as he did. And he went from thoroughly defiant, sitting from atop his Mount Olympus of sports, saying, if you don't feel this way, it's because you've never won anything, from obscenely, at one description of it, obscenely defiant to say something like that. You've never won anything if you don't agree with me. All the way down to him needing to take a break from the conversation, seemingly breaking down about talking about how much of a burden it was to act this way, and understanding how he might be perceived by many because this was the only way he knew how. And it is the reason why he had 6 rings when it was all over, and why it had to be all over when it had to be all over twice because of the burden. He broke down. That was a phenomenal way to end episode 7. Susie and I turned to each other like, was he crying over that? And we're like, yeah. He broke down. So here's the answer to the question of, is he a bad guy for being this way? Is he an a-hole? And the answer is yes. But he won. And if he acted that way and he lost, we wouldn't be sitting around watching a 10-part documentary so fascinated by everything.
Right.
We'd say that guy had no business acting that way. He didn't get results from acting that way. As a matter of fact, what a horrible legacy. That you had no reason to act that way. Go ahead, you could say what you just said off camera if you want to.
Yeah, he'd be Jimmy Butler.
Okay, I mean,
I'm a jerk for no reason who never wins anything.
I don't know when the 10-part documentary of Jimmy Butler's last dance is coming. I hope it does come for him because that means he would be an incredible winner out of all this. It's a simple answer. We are accepting of it and lionizing the man because he was so dominant. I even come on the air here, and I know this sort of stuff is made for clicks and conversation, and then people on shows like this will pick it up and have a conversation about it. You know, ESPN saying, would Jordan be successful in the NBA in 2020? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Where you have to, you know, bend your arm at the elbow to sort of allow somebody to back you down, that you can't put anybody on their ass all the time, like Jordan was all the time. Are you kidding me?
You thought James Harden shot a lot of free throws.
What? Could he be great in the NBA in 2020? He would run roughshod over this basketball association.
I think 40 a night would be a piece of cake for him.
Here's the answer to that question. Yes, he would be successful in 2020. How about this guy using every possible slight? How about him talking about destroying the Seattle Supersonics in the NBA Finals, not because they beat them earlier in the season in the old Key Arena, which they showed. Not because of that. No, because George Karl didn't come over and say hello to him in a restaurant the night before game one of that finals in Chicago. When the two of them are in the same restaurant, he sees him. George sees Michael. I mean, we all know we've seen each other. And they have a Carolina connection.
Right.
And you don't even come up to Michael and say hello, good luck, hey, how are you? You know, how about them heels and beat it on down the line? No. And you know this is true because Ahmad Rashad and Jordan told the story separately. And Jason Hare, the director, weaved it in together.
It's great.
And
it was great.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, really? Yes, really. And not many people in the NBA, and I don't cover it every day, obviously, as closely as others, but I proffer to say when everybody's, you know, hugging it out after the games, that who's out there saying you slighted me in that small, impersonal, personal way, and I'm going to destroy your livelihood for it.
I saw somebody tweet that Mike probably would have got equally as mad had George Karl said hello. What are you doing saying hello to me the night before a game?
I guess he could have used everything.
You know what I mean?
What was the story about that? The kid's name blank from the Washington.
Bradford Smith.
Bradford Smith.
Oh, this poor guy.
Again, I had never heard that story. I love David Aldridge saying, here's a story about LeBradford Smith.
It's great.
And then Wilbon tells a story about LeBradford Smith. And then ultimately the punchline is that LeBradford Smith, who lights up Michael Jordan in Chicago on one night and says to him, good game, Mike, the next night is the subject of MJ's personal and professional scorn, destroys him and the team the next night. And the punchline of the story is Bradford Smith never said good game, Mike.
Jordan made it up.
Made it up.
Just to get himself going. And that's what he said about George Karl. Like, that's all I needed. All I needed was this little slight and I'm going off.
Right. Could he be good in the NBA today in 2020? Yeah. Could he dominate? Yeah. Could he also be a total a-hole and not the nicest guy to work with or be around? Yeah. Do we accept it? You bet we do, because he won 6 times. Yeah. If he won once and then went 0 for his next 5, even getting to the finals as much as that. Look how much we give LeBron grief for getting to the finals and not winning. Come on. Finals MVP all 6 times. Yes, we will totally accept it. We will totally believe that that guy is that guy, and then go off, hang with Bugs Bunny. I'll show it to all my kids and let them buy into the fact that Mike is a wonderful guy, which, you know, he also can be personally, as they showed. We're totally believing on that same guy. And then on top of all of it, and this is the cherry on top I get from all of it, by the point where Jordan comes back and then goes to California and shoots Space Jam, at that point, everybody in the NBA for half a decade, if not a full decade, already knew what type of total beast Michael Jordan was as a professional, as the guy who will rip you apart for the slightest imposition that really wasn't imposed upon him. He will rip out that heart and show it to you pumping and make sure you will never beat him. And he's in California on a movie set needing people to keep him in shape and get him back into shape because he clearly wasn't in shape coming back into the game. Hey, everybody, who wants to play with me? Everybody raises their hands.
Everybody.
And says, I'll go into that meat grinder willingly because you've asked me, Mike, and I want to be around you and learn from you while also showing you all my moves so you can torch me to the tune of 72 regular season wins the next year. And storm my way to a championship, losing once in the Eastern Conference. At least my Knicks got him. I don't know how, of all the times to gloss over the Knicks. Yeah. Give me at least that one win in the second round of the playoffs that year. And then take out the Sonics and see Gary Payton in all of his F-bomb glory, recounting all of this stuff, talking about how when he finally got put on mic, things changed in a finals that they didn't eventually win, and showing that full screen. Jason Hare, I give you the tip of the cap, showing it full screen, Peyton going on that, and then in the middle of it, showing Jordan watching it on the iPad and all of the faces.
Amazing.
And then him cackling.
It's amazing.
About it. Just puts an exclamation point on how Jordan is who he is. We all accept it. And the players in the NBA fed it. Unbelievable. I loved it again.
Some of the best scenes in this documentary are Jordan watching the other players talking on the iPad and then him just reacting.
It's great.
It's
all
amazing.
Those faces, they're new Jordan memes. All the faces. I think TJ Jefferson, Rich Eisen Show Grand Maester, put 4 of them up on our Twitter feed at Rich Eisen Show. Every last one of them is glorious.
The cackle, the smirk.
Every last one of them is glorious. They're new Jordan memes.
Fantastic.
Called him the glove.
Ain't got no problem with the glove.
Oh my gosh.
Ain't got no problem with the glove. That's awesome.
All of it.
I wish there were 20 episodes. I could just watch this over and over again. Can't get enough.
All of it. So we got Mark Jackson on, and he joined the Pacers team that we're about to see in episode 9, try and stand in the way of the Last Dance. And, we'll put all the questions that I just kind of uncorked in front of him. And then BJ Armstrong will join us. He was all over last night's episodes. He was on the team when Jordan retired. He was on the team when Jordan's dad got murdered. Then he retired. He was the guy that Jordan called when he was in Chicago. Do you want to have something to eat? You have some breakfast. And BJ's like, why don't you come over to the Berto Center and see the guys and then
say hello.
And then he starts practicing with them for 2-3 straight days, and then he comes back. So the question I have for BJ, it's chicken or the egg. Did he, by inviting Jordan to come to the Berto Center, start the comeback? Or did Jordan call BJ Armstrong knowing that BJ would be the one to invite him to the Berto Center?
Right. And he was already itching.
He was in. He was already itching. He was in.
Yeah.
He was back, and he wanted to start that process.
Right.
And, no one can answer this question, but I imagine Michael or maybe David Falk, his agent, or whomever, or Reinsdorf. But if there wasn't a strike and baseball didn't come up with that crazy idea of using scab players, putting Jordan in the position of having to cross a picket line saying, hey, minor leaguers, you want a shot? You're in now. If that didn't happen, would Jordan have kept playing baseball? That he would never have been sitting around to have an itch for basketball. So we'll hit that. You know what I'm saying? We'll hit on that with our friend BJ Armstrong. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. Mark Jackson and BJ Armstrong in our numbers 2 and 3. Charlie Blackmon of your Colorado Rockies to talk about with an actual MLB player about what players might be thinking for a 2020 season. Right now, the Denver Post is covering the Rocky season by playing each game on MLB 2020, the show.
It's funny.
And Blackmon, by the way, had a virtual great day yesterday. I don't know if he's aware of that in the real life. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. He is my friend from Fox Sports and The Athletic, covering college action, college football, and its season coming up. He is our friend Bruce Feldman. How are you, Bruce?
I'm doing well, Rich. Good to be on with you.
Good to be on with you too, sir. So I give you the floor on what is going on in the college football world right now that everybody is talking about. I imagine it's the possibility of not having a season. Walk me through that.
Yeah, I think it depends who you talk to and what parts of the country you talk to people, depending on how hard the coronavirus has really hit their area. From a lot of people I've talked to, especially, around FCC country, I think they're very optimistic that there will be a season and it can start on time. I think when you talk to some people maybe in the Midwest and certainly on the West Coast, I think they're probably a little more, maybe, I don't know, skeptical is probably too strong of a word, but I think they're more of the, let's see where we are a month from now, 2 months from now. I think they're probably a little more guarded with it. But I think also, you got to keep in mind, like a month from now is still a while away. I mean, so I think people are waiting to see, okay, is this going to ease up as the country starts to open up more and go, I don't want to say go back to normal, but starts to go back out? Are we going to have another outbreak? Are the numbers going to go up significantly? Are the numbers going to go up, depending on how much more widespread the testing is? I think that's one of the things that a lot of people on the education side of this are waiting to see, especially is what's going to happen with the testing. Because in order to have games, I think we have to have a lot more rigid testing in place. From the people I've talked to, think that needs to happen. Whether it's fans in the stands or not, I mean, there's just a lot of uncertainty. And I've seen a couple of my colleagues bring this up, and I think it's true. Sometimes the answer of I don't know is probably the most valid one, because right now I think there's a lot of people, especially if you're on the coaching side, you're like, all right, we're going to prepare mentally and get things in place as best we can as if the season's going to start on time, because it's easier to reevaluate from that standpoint than it is to act like, hey, we're just gonna kick the can down the road and hope something better comes along at the start of 2021.
Well, what about the idea, Bruce, that that there's got to be kids on college campuses in order to have a football season? We've heard some college commissioners of conferences say this is a student-athlete sport. Scoff all you want, but if there are no kids on campuses and there's remote learning, we're not having a season. Is that still the operative sense, or there could be fractioning saying certain teams in the Big 12 don't want to do it? That's fine. We can have a Big 7 or a Big 6 for the year. Walk me through that right now.
Yeah, I think that issue becomes kind of a moving target, and it changes for people. I don't say by the day, but I think that people fluctuate on it, and the leaders of the sport. Remember, this is already a fractured sport in college football in terms of more than probably any other that's in the mainstream, because there is no commissioner. There is a group of conference commissioners. But I'll give you this scenario, which is, let's say that the numbers are not as devastating in the SEC footprint. And look, Louisiana's gotten hit very hard by it, especially New Orleans. But let's say that a month from now, the numbers are not as devastating as they are maybe in some parts of the Midwest and certainly the Northeast. then does the SEC say, look, we're going to sit this out just like everybody else is intending to, even though we feel like we have, I don't want to say that they have this handled, because that's probably not the right way to frame it. But even if they're looking at it and say, you know what, we think this is something that can be managed, and if we take as much precautions as we can, because the ramifications of not having a college football season is financially devastating to colleges and definitely college athletics. So rather, if we feel like we're in a position where we can have a season, even if it's just a conference season, even if it's 8 games and not a full 12-game schedule, even if there isn't some version of a bowl structure in place, I think it'd be hard for them from that standpoint to go, yeah, we're going to sit this out just like everybody else in unison, because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. And you know, when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars and the financial potential that it has to wreck many of these colleges, they're not just their athletic programs, but also the businesses around these colleges. I think this is not an easy decision for people to make. And I think one thing, just from taking a step back on it, I think the thing that a lot of us, whether we're in the media, whether we're in the middle of the sport, whether we're fans, whoever, I don't think it's necessarily just a black and white thing where you can say, you know what, they're thinking of having a season. That means they don't believe in science, or they don't believe in X, Y, or Z. Or if they think that it's right now, the situation is cataclysmic, that, okay, this is people who don't consider the other things. I think for most people, it's not so black and white. I think there are really levels to this, and that's why I think it's so complicated for a lot of people to track as this thing is moving.
Absolutely. I guess we'll know if Hugh Freeze is Coach of the Year, then Liberty's the only team that was playing this fall against each other. And then when it all comes down to it, though, Bruce, what do you think the eventuality of this is? You were going to talk about revenues. Then certain schools that have the cash that could do it, certain schools that need the cash must do it. You kind of came up with the idea of this will be science-based. We're not seeing that a lot in society today. So my question for you on that front is it possible that we end up seeing, the haves play football and the have-nots not? Is that a possibility this fall?
I mean, I think it's possible. I think what you got to keep in mind is, as things start to open back up, we're not talking about are we going to see dramatic spikes, a day later? I think it's something that people are going to have to monitor. And I also think, towards the bigger issue of this, I think for decision makers and for a lot of people, though, I think the numbers, as devastating as they are, and what are we at, 80,000 deaths in the country at this point, or almost that, I think the thing that it becomes even more real to them, if the numbers don't, when it hits somebody very close to them. And it's that thing that changes it. I think that for a lot of people who watch this, they're like, they saw Rudy Gobert and they saw Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, and they've seen people who they know of, but then they've seen them either, recover from it or whatnot. I think if they started to see people on the teams they root for really, struggling with this, I think that would change for a lot of people. Again, I think what we're talking about is different than opening up some businesses as opposed to having football, which is a sport which is every day of the week you are around 100, 150 other guys. And the potential for this isn't as much as Mike Gundy went on, had his comments a month or so ago about 18 to 22-year-olds. It's not just 18 to 22-year-olds. There's guys on most coaching staffs who are 50, 60 years old. I don't know, there's probably a handful of them also who have some pre-existing conditions. I think it's complicated. And again, I think that as they try to monitor what they can manage and what they feel is something that they can kind of deal with, both mentally as well as from the science aspect of it. I think this is such a moving target for a lot of people. When we talk about science, people are like, well, this model was wrong and that model was wrong. It's not like talking about the weather forecast, right? So there's so many variables that go into it, including some human variables that go into it. And I think that, as the leadership, in quotes, around college football tries to chart this, I think it's, you're going to see, a university president, you may see AD, conference commissioners, make a statement on a Tuesday, and then it could be invalidated, or maybe it'll be parsed in the wrong way, because we've seen a lot of that. And I just think that right now we're in this weird echo chamber as people try to make sense of it. And right now, I don't think anybody's going to have, they could say we're definitely going to we feel confident we're going to play a season, and it could all change, 3 weeks from now. Just like I think if somebody says, hey, we're not going to, it doesn't look very good. Well, who knows? Maybe things will change. It's like I said, it's not like just a weather forecast. I think there's so many variables that go into this that leave it really up in the air, probably more up in the air than most people are used to thinking. And it's just like, you know what? Let's see where it goes.
Peter King of NBC Sports and Football Morning in America spoke to Dr. Anthony Fauci about the NFL season's possibility, and we'll have Peter on in about a half an hour from now, a little bit more with Bruce Feldman from Fox Sports and also The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did my coach do on Friday that people might have missed because lots was going on? UFC was coming back, and the weekend was upon us, and he sent out a letter to the football community. I give you the floor on that, Bruce, and the ripple in the pond after that.
Well, I think he's trying to think big picture, at least in terms of he's talked a lot about some other issues, whether it's when kids can transfer, but also I think in this time it was like basically who could be cleared and when to leave early for the NFL, as opposed to sitting out, having to wait 3 years from when your high school class graduated.
And I do want to jump in here for those who may not know. We're referring to Jim Harbaugh of Michigan when I say my coach. So I don't want to assume everybody knew what I was talking about. So I'll give you, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to get in there.
Yeah, I think that, look, it's an interesting idea. I think there's a lot of things that are probably more complex than they get. The one-time transfer exemption is an example of how this is more complicated. And when it relates to the scholarships and everything else involved, right now the NCAA, and it's been this way for a while, has been operating under a 25 cap limit of scholarships you get a year. So even if your program is not at 85, that's not that relevant to how this works. Let's say your program, you lost a bunch of kids early who decided to leave, and they became 7th-round picks or 6th-round picks or whatever, first-round picks, and you're down to 67 scholarships. You don't just get to get back up to 85. You only get 25, and that is the thing more than any other that I think is, driving what a lot of coaches, maybe not Jim Harbaugh, are concerned about, because you cannot replace the ones. And I think how that relates, and people can say, okay, that's just coaches feeling like they're protecting their own self-interest. While that is true, you also got to keep in mind there are not going to be places for kids who transfer to land, because if there's not 25, if there's not a couple of vacancies left in the 25 spots, and a lot of schools rarely have more than like one or two after signing day happens, there's no scholarships for them to go to. And so what happens, and it's happened a lot with the portal already, is players end up thinking, oh, well, this school offered me out of high school. Yeah, but that was out of high school. They filled those spots probably. They may not have room for you. And so a lot of times kids announce they're leaving. They essentially give up their scholarships, and they end up with nowhere. I did a big story on The Athletic last week about this very thing. And, it is a fraction of people in Power 5. It might be like the ACC. I think there was over 100 kids who left, and about 10% of them actually got FBS scholarships after they left. It just so I think in theory, and this goes to also Jim's open letter, I think it's one thing just to put that out there as a billboard, and it's obviously Jim Harbaugh is going to get a lot of attention. I'm sure there's plenty of Ohio State fans who are going, yeah, he wants all our great players to leave because we have the kind of kids who can leave, earlier than, his kids. I think that's all well and good of a rivalry, but I think the practical piece of it about there needs to be if you're going to do that, they need to figure out some other legislation to have offset. So it's not like there's a road to nowhere for people who are leaving and there's no scholarship opportunity for them to get.
Bruce Feldman of Fox Sports and The Athletic, in your latest piece, kind of bring it all together, this whole what's old is new again world, and trying to use it as a prism for the current sports scene, like The Last Dance in a way. You spoke to Reggie Bush about the name, image, and likeness new world that's coming to college football. What did Reggie have to say?
Reggie's perspective was fascinating. We talked for about a week back and forth about this subject, and he's of the mind, and obviously he got into a lot of hot water with the NCAA. His alma mater got devastating sanctions, lost 30 scholarships, 2-year bowl ban, and really Reggie Bush could have made so much more, probably according to the experts I talked to for the story, who projected what Reggie Bush could have made if he played now, which is 10 times what anybody else, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, any other star would have made this past year under this rule. And even if you use Reggie Bush's actual time frame, which was 2004, 2005, he still would have made, they projected $2 to $3 million a year based on his earning potential, which would be, 10 times what the NCAA was alleging that he and his family would have gotten or were to have gotten in benefits. And so when he looks at this, he told me, he was like, look, I made some mistakes through this. I'm not going to say I didn't. And there was things he regretted about it. But he said, if my situation had to happen for people to look back and say, all right, this is a wrong system. Because remember, the money that people were making, again, off of college athletes, when it comes to the high end of the food chain, it's pretty staggering. And so we were talking about somebody who could have made $2 to $3 million, and this is even before social media. It's pretty eye-opening, and I think he said a lot of times in this country we are very reactive. We're not proactive, and he said sometimes people look back and go, wait a minute, what were we thinking? Why was this the rule?
Right.
And he was like, the NCAA has fought this at every turn, and he's happy that for now, he said, I'm glad that thousands of kids will end up benefiting from this, even though obviously it was a real mess for him and his family, and certainly for USC in the wake of it.
It started over video games, didn't it? Back in the day?
This one, no. I think this whole thing gets really complicated. It goes down a slippery slope in a hurry. And I think, to tie back to all the other NIL stuff, they're worried about third-party people. You're worried about transfer third-party people. There's just it's all kind of connected. And the reason why this, and this is a little bit mentioned in the story, the reason why this NIL stuff is so hard for the NCAA is because, let's say, you're a prominent alum of your school. You want to have your star quarterback come to your son's birthday party. You could do it for $50,000. You could do it for $100,000. Normally, it wouldn't matter, but because there's a recruiting component tied to college athletics,
right,
that's where the NCAA is trying to police it, and that's what's going to come into the crosshairs of Congress, who are going to say, wait a minute, that's not free market value if you're capping it and you're limiting it. So it's going to get very messy as the NCAA tries to sort this out going forward. And the Reggie Bush story is a real good example of how it can get really messy.
Well, I guess the video game stuff I meant is that's how the name and image and likeness stuff got started, with the O'Bannons, et cetera, in college basketball. But I guess what I want to just put a button on this whole conversation here is that we have no idea what college sports is going to look like post-COVID-19. We have no idea how many programs are still going to be existing depending on how long this goes and if fall sports does in fact exist. And we may see a separation between Power 5 conferences and the rest of and the rest of college athletics, and the potential, parting of the ways where Power 5 starts their own stuff outside of the NCAA. I mean, things. I'm reading and hearing so much stuff based on what might happen in the next 6, 8, 12 months. It's crazy. We have no idea what the world is going to look like, Bruce.
We don't. And I think the thing that just, people probably need to keep in mind here is we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars as it relates to it. And there are not easy answers to this. And I think as people get really further down the road on what's happening with the virus, as we get closer to the college football season, I just think that, you got to keep in mind that there is really fractured leadership here. And that's kind of a recipe for a lot of the things you just outlined potentially happening. I mean, the margins are very slim for some of these programs who are not Alabama or LSU or Michigan or Ohio State. It's just a very different world they live in.
Bruce, you're the man. I hope everybody's happy and healthy and safe in your world.
Same to you, Rich. I appreciate the time. It's always good talking to you.
Always, Bruce. That's Bruce Feldman. Check out his new piece. He spoke to Reggie Bush. It's a great read on The Athletic. And then, obviously, he'll be back on the sidelines if there is a sidelines to get back on this fall on Fox Sports. Again, we'll just see how the coffers and these programs all look by the end of this year. And in the same way that the NBA may come through this and decide we need to do our season in December from now on, and do the season, meaning start in December from now on and run it through August. And this year they may have to. If they do somehow get back on the court, they can't start right again the next month. Then maybe they do recharge the batteries, start in December, and take it all the way through to August. And that's the way Cage Anthony Brockman will be watching associations seasons for the rest of his life. In the same way, potentially, Power 5 starts looking at other schools saying, hey, you don't want to do this in a certain way to raise revenue. Your student athletes are who they are. Your school and your provost are who they are. Ours are different. And we're going to take our sports and go. And we've got our own NCAA. You can stick with, Mark Emmert and everybody else. Are you reading about that? You seeing these conversations that people are already prognosticating?
I mean, I fully expect the SEC to just be like, screw this. We're going to have our own.
We'll have our own.
Yeah. Who wants to come with us?
844-204-RICH, number to dial. We'll go to the Geico phone line in a second. Geico, for the moment, just wants to say thank you. Though we're apart these days, we're sharing more, and Geico says thanks. Thanks for sharing your savage dance moves. Thanks for sharing your DIY haircut fails. Thanks for sharing your inner lip sync star. Geico wants to share, too. Geico Give Back is what Geico is talking about. A 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies for current and new customers. And because Geico is committed for the long haul, the 15% credit lasts your full policy term. Visit geico.com/giveback for more info and eligibility. Learn more, again, about Geico's 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies at geico.com/giveback. Let's go right now to Wyatt in Wisconsin. It's good to chat with you again, Wyatt. What's going on?
Nothing much. How's it going, Rich?
What's going on your mind, brother?
Nothing much. My question for you today is Jordan Love, Packer, obviously. When do you think he's going to get his playing time as a Packer?
Well, Wyatt, here's the way I see the Jordan Love stuff playing out certainly this year. I don't think he sees the field unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and they want to see who they have in him, and that would be obviously a disastrous set of events. But it's Aaron Rodgers' team. It's Aaron Rodgers' team to win. They want to win a championship now. They got so close last year. That's the reason why a lot of people are leaving their heads being scratched over Jordan Love. It doesn't mean much for 2020. Certainly in a 2020 that we're not going to see much on-field practicing, if at all, before the season. So it's Aaron Rodgers' team, and unless Aaron Rodgers is similar to what happened with Brady and the Patriots against the Jets last year in Week 3, where they absolutely were destroying them, and they took him off the field, and Jarrett Stidham got in, and he threw a pick 6, and Brady came back in, and then Cody Kessler got signed the next week. That's the sort of Jordan Love scenario I see playing out this fall. And then we'll see it play out in the following years, but that's just in the front of my windshield on that.
Yeah.
You got it. Take care of yourself, Wyatt. That's Wyatt in Wisconsin. Next up on the Geico fan phone line, Tyler in Chicago. He first in, first up. What's up, Tyler?
Yeah, I just wanted to start off by saying that you've been a huge role model to me and my friends. We started a YouTube channel about a year ago where we talk football.
Yes.
And you've been a huge role model for us, and we hope to be like you guys one day.
I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that. So you mean just a tired shell of a 50-year-old man one day? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. That's
okay.
right.
Hang in there. You got time. What's on your mind?
All right. I just wanted to ask you about Dez Bryant. Where do you think he's going to end up in 2020, if anywhere at all?
We asked Irv that the other day. Along with Drew Pearson, the godfathers of the 88 Club right now. And he said he had no idea. He said that Dez looks good. He's ready to go. He's back from blowing out his Achilles. And it just sounds like he can't quit the Cowboys. And it's the Cowboys who have given 88 to CeeDee Lamb, which is the most stark indication you could get from the man who makes these decisions of saying we've moved on from the previous 88 clubbers. And that might be Jerry's way of also sending to Dez, hey, man, love you, but this is not going to happen here. Go find another spot. I don't know is the answer to that question. We asked Irv, and he kind of said he doesn't know either.
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery. It's kind of weird how Dez Bryant's kind of been sort of that man in the offseason. So I was just wondering what you thought about it.
Well, you take care of yourself, brother. Call back, and thank you for saying what you said.
Yeah, it's like that girl who dumps you that you're just devastated and you just can't ever move on from. It seems like that's what Dez
That's what sounded like with Irv last week, right?
I mean, all the videos he's posting, all the workouts, he looks great. He looks like he could be a guy who could help a team in some capacity.
Let's go to Nick in North Carolina. We want to thank everybody out there from dialing 844-204-RICH, either watching on youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show or listening on Sirius XM Channel 211 Dan Patrick Radio. What's up, Nicholas?
Hey, Rich. Hopefully you're doing well. My question was, do you think Baker Mayfield has a shot to perform well in his third year?
He better, don't you think?
I'm hoping so. My friends keep getting on me, and they're all football fans, and they keep getting on me, and they're telling me I'm dumb when I say Baker Mayfield's going to be the man.
How does that go? Your friends call you dumb, and you're fine with that?
Yeah, you just got to take it, and I just let it be.
All right, so let me defend you, okay? You're not dumb. Baker Mayfield has some special abilities. There's no, it was no mistake that that he was chosen first overall, okay? You could sit there and say that others should have been taken first overall, but the reason why he was taken first overall is he does have an excellent arm. I believe he does. The question is what else other than his arm can be improved? Footwork, decision-making, and then Brockman's pointing to his temples, his head, his lid. Here's the best part about this, okay, is unlike, in my estimation, despite Adam Gase today saying, hey, man, do I love that Le'Veon Bell, Frank Gore combination, which is what he told New York media.
He
okay?
has to say that.
No, and the reason why I bring this up is not just because of my own self with the Jets, but the Jets have something in Sam Darnold. They're all in on him, and they don't have the other issues that you have with Baker Mayfield in terms of the mental makeup that people are wondering about Baker. But Baker's no dumbass. He understands what people are saying and what he needs to improve on. All that said, the reason why I bring that up is Darnold was taken instead of, because the Jets might have taken Mayfield, but he was taken. Jets take Darnold. Well, they could have loved him, but he's in the same boat, same draft year. Josh Allen, we've already evaluated. Josh Rosen has not gotten a fair shake, and we all know Lamar Jackson has been properly evaluated. So in terms of evaluating somebody from that draft class, the Browns are so far ahead of the Jets in terms of putting the people around Mayfield to make this determination now before you're in a position like the Bears found themselves this year with Trubisky. So the best part about this is you're definitely going to find out this year, as opposed to wondering the same question like the Titans did with Mariota. So that's the good news, is the Browns have gotten the line straight, the weaponry correct for this evaluation to be made.
Sweet. Thank you, Rich.
Take care of yourself.
Appreciate it.
He doesn't sound dumb to me, does he?
No, he doesn't. Let me follow up on Nick a little bit. Obviously, Baker Mayfield, a regression in his second year. 21 interceptions. Did not lead the league, of course, but was among the leaders. Less than 60% completion percentage. Do you think Baker Mayfield's future as a starting quarterback in the NFL hinges on this third season?
No, I don't. I think Mayfield will still have a fourth year to get something done. The Browns aren't going to move on from him.
But if he has another year like last year coming up in 2020, maybe the Browns now start to look for his replacement in the draft in 2021.
I just think last year was...
what went wrong?
Everything. How does that sound? Everything went wrong.
It covers it.
The line wasn't good enough. The coach wasn't ready for prime time. Yeah. Let's be honest. And it wasn't the proper move. They made the wrong move. So they changed everything again. And we'll see if this makes it better. I do like their draft.
So you think another coaching change essentially buys Baker two more seasons?
Well, they have his contract buys him the 2 more seasons.
Yes, but as we've seen, that means nothing.
Well, I mean, as we've seen,
Mitch Trubisky is basically out at Bears quarterback, even though he was the second overall.
Absolutely pick. Understood. But in Trubisky's, I mean, we'll see if they acquire somebody like Foles next year,
right. Or if they go get Andy Dalton.
I think Mayfield's going to have a better season.
Okay,
I really do.
I mean, he better.
Come on, man. Kid has some special aspects to him. I think he's going to have a better year. I think the team around him's better. How do you like that?
Browns playoffs?
Oh, jeez.
Remember last year at this time?
Let's do it.
At this time last year, the Browns were the 4th betting favorite for the Super Bowl.
I don't know if our crew has put the Browns schedule together. If they have, Don, you can pop it up. If you don't, I'll just check it out right here. At the Ravens opener.
Nope.
You can't say nope.
What do you mean you can't say no?
Dude, last year the Browns lost the Titans, right, in week 1, correct? And then who we found out wasn't so damn bad, and then they beat a lame Jets team. When I say lame, they were on their 3rd-string quarterback when Myles Garrett, hit the backup Jet quarterback in a way that I think made a nice little precursor to the season, and then they beat the Ravens in Baltimore.
Yeah, but that was one of the most inexplicable things of last year.
Let's give them a loss. Home for Cincinnati, home for Washington. Let's give them 2 wins then.
Okay.
They're at Dallas. Come on now. Them going into Dallas and beating Dallas would be the most Dallas thing. And the most Browns thing, too.
It would be the most Dallas
It would be the most Browns thing to do.
Let's give them a win there. Let's be optimistic.
Okay, give them 3.
3-1, home for Indianapolis.
So, I don't know what Indy's going to look like.
At Pittsburgh, at Cincinnati, home for Vegas. Those are their first 8. Let's give them 5-3.
Okay. That's optimistic.
Then you got a bye week. They're home for Houston, home for Philly. Let's say they split them. 6-4.
Okay.
At Jacksonville, that's a win.
Yeah, but who's the quarterback in Jacksonville?
I don't care. Yeah. Dude, we're sitting here playing this out.
I know, but what if it's Cam Newton by that point?
Yeah. It will not be. 7-4. By that point, Jacksonville will be tanking for Trevor. At Tennessee, let's give them a loss, 7-5. Home for Baltimore on a Monday night. They feel great. They're 8-5.
Oh, Browns in primetime?
Right. Yeah, at the Giants, Odell Beckham, 1 fingers, 3 catches for 4 touchdowns. At the Jets and home for Pittsburgh. That could be 9-7. I mean, that could be 9-7.
But 9-7 is not good enough with the expectations on this team.
I know that.
And there's not 7 playoff teams yet. Or is there? I forget.
There will be this year, yes.
Yeah.
So 9-7 could be good enough to make it.
Yeah, you could be like that.
That could be the 7th seed.
Yep.
And then here we go.
I mean,
7 at the 2nd seeded Jets would be amazing.
Stidham, go.
Stid.
Baker's got to.
Excuse me. Stid.
Baker's got to go to Stid. At the Razor.
Baker's got to visit Stead at the Razor. Words that I normally wouldn't have made sense, but now they make complete sense.
I love the schedule game.
The schedule game
The
is
schedule
great.
game is so
good.
fun.
That's why I love Caliendo. That's why I love
I mean-
Caliendo as Gruden. Win, buy, win. Then he comes up with 16-0, right?
16-0, man.
I mean, come on. I mean,
The best.
That's it.
The best.
That's the way everybody's game of schedule game.
we're done.
16-0, man.
That's everybody. Okay, so Peter King's going to be joining us because, knock on wood, if you're with me, we're going to have a season, right? So we're going to get Peter King. He spoke to Dr. Anthony Fauci in the latest on, maybe we'll ask him about Dez, right? And one of our listeners and viewers wants the question answered, so we'll ask it. Mark Jackson will join us. BJ Armstrong will join us as we'll go down the whole Last Dance wormhole with those two gentlemen. And then Charlie Blackmon. What must his quarantine beard look like if his regular season beard looks like that?
Baby. Can you have his number? Should you text him
We
for
will
a
ask
photo
him.
right
We
now?
will
He
ask
put
him.
UConn Cornelius to shame right now.
Well, I think what
He's
Big
going to
Ben?
look like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Yeah.
So Chuck Nasty
volleyball.
of your Colorado Rockies will join us supposedly on a day where Major League Baseball is huddling up to come up with the best plan to put in front of players and see how much of a season we can have. So hour number one's in the books, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. We'll take your calls on NBCSN once we return. And we'll be joined by our linear cable partners here on Sirius XM Channel 211 and YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show.
Whatever. Let's see, what do we have here? Win. I don't give a rat's who we're playing. Doesn't matter when, where, place. Just bring them to us. We go to them, do whatever we got to do to just knock their blocks out. Well, we pretty much play everybody exactly the same way, so preparation doesn't matter.
You guys want me to memorize the schedule for all 32 teams? Done. I've been thinking about it a lot in the shower. I have been.
Win, buy, win. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take them down and knock their blocks off. Win. 16-0, man. Win or lose, we booze, baby. Are we done?
Rich. Love your show, buddy.
This is The Rich Eisen Show. Live from The Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
We're going to do this. If we can't do it, we'll let you know when we can.
Earlier on the show, Fox Sports college football analyst Bruce Feldman. Still to come. From NBC Sports, Peter King. ESPN NBA analyst Mark Jackson. Three-time NBA champion BJ Armstrong. Colorado Rockies outfielder Charlie Blackmon. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Well, hey, everybody. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day weekend here on the Rich Eisen Show. We are back in Los Angeles, happy and healthy, and knock on wood if you're with me. Chris Brockman and Mike Del Tufo at their usual posts. Good to see you. We all had a great conversation in our first hour with Bruce Feldman of Fox Sports and The Athletic. If you missed it, go to youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Please also check us out on Sirius XM Channel 211. We say good morning and good afternoon wherever the NBC SN crew and viewers are taking us in from 1 to 3 Eastern every day. We say hello to you. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. At Rich Eisen Show is how you can tweet with us. Instagram or Facebook is always white hot to the touch with our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. A lot of Last Dance conversation we're going to be having here over the next couple of hours. Mark Jackson, one of the lead analysts on ESPN's NBA coverage. We're about to see quite a bit of his Indiana Pacers team from the Last Dance era. He was brought on to be the point guard of that Pacers team, coached by Larry Bird. We're about to see that hit episode number 9. We just saw episode 7 and 8 last night. BJ Armstrong was in the middle of all of that, all of that being Michael Jordan's first retirement, Michael Jordan's return from retirement, Michael Jordan's also passing of his father, also beating Michael Jordan in one playoff game in the Last Dance season, and then trash talking Michael in the bench. Was he also, Chris, should we pick up from what he was saying, that was he also part of the Space Jam pickup games? It seems like he was invited to that because he was talking as if he was there, although I did not see him amongst the Sean Bradley, Juwan Howard, Reggie Miller-a-thon.
Dennis Rodman, Patrick Ewing. Who's who in those games? Yeah, I think so. I got to assume that BJ was part of it.
And, of course, then he was using all of that on the court back in the day. Using all of that to get back up to speed into basketball playing shape in his first comeback from his first retirement. Using all of that also to eyeball the younger talent so he could be leading the NBA's version of the Monstars the next season to the tune of 72 regular season wins. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And the conversation that came off of that being, is he a bad guy? Is he the proverbial you-know-what hole? And the answer is yeah. You know, he might not be the nicest guy, and yeah, he might have been a tough teammate to be around and may have been awful to sometimes have as a teammate, as Steve Kerr pointed out, getting into a fight with him. Judd Bushler saying they were afraid of him. That we, however, are far more accepting of it as a populace and a sports-loving nation because he had 6 rings. It worked. So, yeah, there's that.
The ultimate deodorant, of course, is winning.
So, yeah, we can be fickle and say, that's awful, that's terrible. I wouldn't do it that way. And I can actually look at the guy who I say, I accept that behavior from. I could see him sit on the documentary and say, the reason why I might not think that way is because I haven't won anything. You want to talk about how obscene that is in terms of either rationalization or explanation? That just because I don't want to act that way, I haven't won anything, guess what? I'll still accept it. In the same way that if I was an NBA player in that era and I had been totally stymied by this one individual in my dreams, and he asked me to play pickup games so he can get back into shape and kick my ass the following season, oh, yeah, I'll do it too. Just like the NBA players did. Ewing was there.
I know.
Yeah, that was
Well,
crazy.
I mean, he was in the movie, right?
He was.
But at that point in time, from Ewing losing as a collegiate player and then all those years not a collegiate player in the NBA, well, whatever. But my first guest up here on the Rich Eisen Show, he was on Lunch Talk Live earlier here on NBCSN, but I figured I want to have him on too to ask my questions about his questions he put to Dr. Anthony Fauci of the National Institute of Health, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and a key member of that White House coronavirus task force. Was queried by Peter King in his Football Morning in America column. That is always must-read material on NBCSports.com and ProFootballTalk.com. PK, how are you today?
Hey, Rich, how you doing?
I'm fine. When did you talk to Dr. Fauci?
5:30 Saturday evening.
There you go. So was he already self-quarantined at that point in time?
I think he was. I didn't hear about it until my wife and I were watching the news at 6:30 Eastern, and I heard about it then. But I was, on Saturdays at this time of year, what I basically am doing is trying to write most, if not all, of my Football Morning in America column. So I've just got my head down and I'm just writing. So I didn't really know what was happening in the world at that point.
So let's get into it. Dr. Fauci, in short, I guess, said it's possible that there is an NFL playing season in 2020.
Yeah, I think he is bullish on doing everything. Like, he loves sports. He understands. He loves baseball. He doesn't love football. He's okay with it, but he understands how important sports are to America, and in particular at this time of year when there's none going on, that we should really try to do everything we can to, at least be playing the games, even if fans can't go to them. So he's very bullish on the NFL doing everything possible to try to play. I mean, as I have written, and he basically assented to, time is on the NFL side. As he said, because I asked him, would it be piggish for the NFL to start using up a monstrous amount of tests? Like what I would figure at least they would need to have a season, about 200,000 tests for the league to be able to have essential personnel and players tested twice a week for the year. It might be more than 200. But he said, yeah, it would be piggish if they did it right now, but there's a very good chance 3 months from now, when all of these tests are going to be getting used by the NFL, there's a very good chance that it won't be piggish then, because they're mass-producing tests. And as he said, shame on us if we don't, get that part of it going. We need to do it for society at large.
So testing, tracing, and then I know you mentioned the other day about Dalton signing in Dallas. It's important to have a backup quarterback should your starting quarterback test positive for coronavirus. And I was beginning to think, well, if quarterbacks are around in a quarterback room, then wouldn't everybody have to self-quarantine if somebody did test positive in the same way that Dr. Fauci is? But he basically said you can get to the point where if somebody does test positive for coronavirus, you just remove him from the team, test everybody else, and off we go to week 3, on to Cincinnati, essentially.
Because I think he views that one test is going to be an outlier if everyone else tests negative. But that's why you test more than once a week, because as he says, you could have the virus and not test positive, and then 2 days later test and you're positive. So let's take the case of one individual player testing positive. I think that is a good reason why even when you're in a locker room and you're with a team, you're still going to practice social distancing. Rich, it's been very, very interesting. About a half hour ago, I got a call from an NFL general manager. It's the second one I've gotten in the last couple days about this topic. And this general manager basically told me he was inspired by what he read from Fauci today in my column, and said that there is a way, and we all need to basically take the design that the NFL put into play last week during the week. And I think there was about 10 pages total in those documents that Roger Goodell sent out to the teams, in which there is absolute explicit design of every team and what they're going to have to do to put a program in place. And the reason why it's so important is that, if you have 53 guys taking a test on a Saturday night, just imagine if 4 guys test positive. I think the NFL most likely will do exactly what Fauci said. The NFL, the team would announce, hey, these 4 guys tested positive. We're not playing this week. And, so think of that, and obviously think of the opponent the next day. Would the opponent the next day just say, well, you got 4, those 4 guys aren't playing. The rest of your guys, we're sure they're safe. No. Would you be a player wanting to play a team that in the hours before the game had 4 guys test positive? No. It'd be like walking into the White House right now and having 50 guys walk through the White House. Every one of them would look at everybody that they're meeting in the White House saying, so, did you run into the 2 people who've tested positive? So you really are going to have to – teams are going to have to pay painstaking attention. I said to this one GM that as crazy as this sounds, it'll be as important this year to have a pristine hygienic plan and cleaning plan all through your facility. That'll be as important as having a good offensive and defensive game plan for that week's game. Because if you don't keep it clean, there's not going to be a game.
Peter King of NBC Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. Another story that popped up on a Friday night, actually, and our show kind of got into the middle of it because we had DeShaun Watson on, and we'll play that later on this hour, back prior to the 2017 draft, saying that he did, in fact, speak to the Chicago Bears leading up. But he tweeted out on Friday night that the Bears never once talked to him. And that's just, maybe old, ancient news, but certainly not in Chicago. I mean, this is the stuff that just lights up a Chicago Bears fan, because the season's going to begin with the marquee matchup between DeShaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Think about it. You got those 2 guys starting an NFL season, and nobody bats an eye over it. And as a matter of fact, we're all ready to sit up and watch that. And Trubisky may not even start week 1 in Detroit. And so this is quite something. Peter, I'm wondering what your reporting was at the time, or anything that you might have gathered over the weekend.
I don't know. I didn't do anything this weekend with it, Rich, but I don't know whether the Bears had him in or worked him out. I mean, obviously, I take Watson at his word, but
sure.
That would be a huge surprise to me. If it's true, it just would, because it would be a huge surprise to me. And maybe, look, this could have been like, remember the time when, what was it, 2000, I don't even remember what year it was, whatever. But when Jay Cutler was the first round pick of the Denver Broncos, and he was sitting there at his family party in Indiana or something like that, and he had a bunch of hats, like he maybe had 10 hats, and he didn't have a Broncos hat. He said, they never talked to me once. So it's not always the best indicator,
yes,
whether you've decided to pick a guy or not pick him, if you haven't, taken a trip there or whatever. But to not spend any time with the guy is a little bit weird to me, if indeed that's the way it happened.
Peter, before I let you go, we have fans calling up all the time about Dez Bryant. And certainly since the Packers need a wide receiver, clearly, and the Cowboys went in a different direction with 88, but we're always wondering, what about this guy? What is going on with Dez, best you can tell right now?
I think most people in the NFL view him as a retired player. And, because he hasn't played now, in a couple of years? My gut feeling is people, that the Green Bay Packers would rather say, we will let Alan Lazard and Equinemius St. Brown be our, sort of our prospects, this year for, to keep growing with Aaron Rodgers. But, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've asked anybody about Dez Bryant. It's interesting how he just literally fell off the face of the earth. And I wonder with a guy like him whether people might think he'd be any sort of a distraction, or if he doesn't get balls thrown to him 2 straight weeks, would he pop off or something like that? And that I just don't know. But he's certainly a guy. I feel about him the way I feel about Percy Harvin. It's a weird year because Percy Harvin now wants to play, and he's been out of the game longer, I guess 4 full years, longer than Bryant has. But both those guys, I would bring them to camp. I'd see what they have left. I mean, Percy Harvin, midway through the, 2015 or 16 season, was probably the offensive player of the year, whatever year he had the incredible first half of the season. But what's the harm? It doesn't cost you anything to bring those guys into camp, see what they have left. I'd certainly do it.
Before I let you go, Peter, a large part of your column today about Don Shula. I'll just give you the floor and what you'd want people to know. And I know you went back and forth on Twitter with a few Jet fans about the AFC Championship game back in the day.
Here's the thing, Rich.
Yeah.
Don Shula, basically for the last quarter century, has been mostly invisible. You've seen him wave to crowds or whatever. Hey, NFL's winning as coach. Here's Don Shula. But think about it. If you're 35 or 40 years old, would you really know anything about Don Shula? You weren't alive during the perfect season year.
Nope.
You weren't. You unless you've really studied football history, you wouldn't know that in 1965, at the age of 35, that as a head coach, because both of your quarterbacks were injured, you had to go in and play the Green Bay Packers in Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr with your running back playing quarterback, and you took the powerhouse Packers to overtime in that playoff game. And then, obviously, the only perfect season in the 100 years that the NFL has ever played. He's the coach. All the tight games they played that year. Just, there's so much about him. And so, Rich, quite honestly, this was, the New York Times is all the news that's fit to print, that they really feel like they're the paper of record. And I know a lot of people in the country don't feel that way. But to me, sometimes I want my column to be the column of record. If you read about the NFL in this week, you're going to read 4,000 words that will tell you who Don Shula is. And until Anthony Fauci called me at 5:30 on Saturday, I was going to have the Don Shula story at the top of my column. And I'm sure have a bunch of people say, what do I want to read about that old man for? And maybe you wouldn't have even read the column. But that's one of the favorite things I've ever done in one of these columns, because I really felt like I got 12 stories that really got you to know who this guy was. But thanks for the floor.
No, you got it, Peter. And thanks for the time. I appreciate it. And again, the ultimate question I'm sure you put to Fauci was, we'll see, right? I mean, he can't give any sort of odds.
I think he feels like, I think we all feel like there's going to be football in the fall. There's a very good chance that the NFL is going to be playing games in the fall. But, and there's a very big but, there's going to be a second wave of this disease. Do not get comfortable. All those people who are going to be working on this for NFL teams, you know what? It's not – you didn't do a great job until the Super Bowl is over. Then, if the NFL plays a Super Bowl this year, you can say, all right, NFL, you did a great job in basically conquering the pandemic.
Peter, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, Rich, take care.
You take care. That's Peter King here on The Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you know what? I the first order of business is let's see how many people from UFC 249 tests positive. Will we even know? Didn't ESPN say that people signed a document to not criticize how UFC was handling this whole thing? And we'll find out. And then NASCAR's
it'll
coming
get out.
NASCAR comes up this weekend, right? And they're going to be racing in Darlington. We'll see how that works. But the NFL, I mean, you're on top of each other. You know, there's some places where you're not even supposed to gather more than 10. And there's 11 on one side of the ball. But again, time's on the NFL side. That's why people are wondering, why is the NFL going ahead with the draft? Why are they going ahead with the schedule? What are they supposed to do? Say, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to try to shelter everyone in place. And everybody was complaining about it in the NFL. We actually did it. More people watched it than ever. And on top of it, a bunch of the decision makers were like, you know, I kind of didn't mind doing it from home. It's good to have my kids. Good to be done with it, hang the phone up, and then put the kids to bed. And then the schedule comes out. Why are you doing that? Why is the NFL doing that? Why are they coming out and saying that it's a full 17-week, 16-game schedule where they're planning on having fans when that sounds like a pure fantasy? What are they supposed to do? Sit here and say, you know what, here it is, but we don't think it's possible. And just basically say, when it comes time to address it, we'll do it. It's only May 11th. Right, it is May 11th, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. By the way, thank you for checking the time out there, Mike.
I was looking at the watch.
Oh, fine. Perfect.
Wow.
You literally went like this, but I understand that you could see the date on your hand.
Yes.
I got it.
Yeah, it was cool.
All right, we'll come back. 844-204-RICH, number to dial here. We'll turn to last night's Last Dance episodes on ESPN. Give you a couple cents on that subject. Mark Jackson will join us with his 2 cents on it here on The Rich Eisen Show. We're live on Sirius XM Channel 211 as well as YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Chris, have we come up with a poll question today? Have you got one?
I had one.
What was the one that you have?
There.
What did you have?
Kind of the big theme of the Last Dance this week was, Jordan, do you like him? Nice guy, whatever. I was going to say, so far, do you like Michael Jordan more or less or the same?
More. Do you like him more, less, or the same?
More.
You do like him more, huh?
100%. I love his ethic. That's a champion. End of story.
Yeah, but you're a champion.
I am.
You're a champion.
At what I do. And that's why I love I push people that work with me. Yeah, it's the same we all do. Anyone who's a professional.
Right.
You got it. I love that. I'm digging that more than anything I'm seeing. Last night was great when he was yelling, you want to be like, it's like, I loved it.
Scotty Burrell.
I mean, it's
just got abused.
Guess who scored 23 points in closing out the Charlotte Hornets? Scotty Burrell.
I also thought it was interesting. Steve Kerr kind of did what Mike challenged Scott Burrell to do but never would, which was fight back and defend himself in those practices. And I think that's why, I don't know if, I'm sure Mike respects Scotty Burrell, but probably not as much as Steve Kerr.
Because Scotty Burrell never hauled off and hit him.
Yeah,
exactly.
Never fought back.
Yeah.
And he was pushing him. And he pushed Steve Kerr, and Kerr had enough. Thought that was interesting because we've all heard about this legendary, fight between Steve Kerr and Michael Jordan, and
right.
to hear those guys explain it, it was really interesting.
All right, you want to put that poll question up?
Let's do it.
I think the same's going to win.
I forgot the 45-23 thing too. I knew he did that, but I forgot.
I mean, Nick Anderson,
like that.
45-8-23.
I mean,
what are you doing, bro?
Forgot about that.
Yeah, but 23 did lose that, right? Because 23 wasn't in shape yet.
23 had played 10 games.
Yeah, I mean,
come on.
That's it, right? Yeah, there it is, number 45. Number 10 is going to be joining us shortly on the show. BJ's all over this thing, isn't he?
Yeah, BJ got a lot of airtime,
including the
last
trivia
night.
question. The three Bulls who made the All-Star team the year after Jordan left.
Oh.
Scotty Pippen, Horace Grant, BJ Armstrong.
I wish they would have stayed together at the end, though.
What do you mean?
I would love the Lakers were the only team.
I know, but that's a fallacy because the Lakers being the Lakers had Phil Jackson coaching them. Would Del Harris, who by the way was in Space Jam, would Del Harris have been the guy? Del Harris is in Space Jam. Chris.
He is?
Oh, yeah, brother.
I haven't seen Space Jam in a while.
But they were getting old.
Watch it with Cage. No, he's too young for it.
But they were getting old.
All right, we're back in a second. Eight 844-204-RICH, number to dial here on this Monday edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Mark Jackson will be joining us in about 5 minutes' time. BJ Armstrong, top of the next hour. And then Charlie Blackmon, as Major League Baseball ownership apparently getting together today to talk about plans to place in front of the players to say this is how we're going to play the season. What I am hearing on this front is that there's going to be no bubble communities in Florida where we're all going to just station down there and go for it. Or Arizona, which I think is a non-starter. It's 100 degrees there now.
Yeah.
All right, in May. So I'm hearing that's a non-starter. I'm hearing that teams are just going to shelter in their home cities and potentially travel to the most geographically sound locations around. There'll be a lot of Mets, Red Sox, Mets, Yankees, a lot of Yankees, Philly, Mets, Philly, maybe the Pirates. You know, I don't know what they would do with Toronto because obviously a different country. That's a whole different ball of wax. And just figure it out because I'm hearing players do not want to quarantine. They want to live their lives, go home, see their kids, see their wives, see their significant others. And I just don't know how that's going to work. So we'll talk to Charlie Blackmon later on about what he might know. And he's just one of the more colorful players in Major League Baseball. One of our favorite guests will be joining us in our final hour of this program. Now, The Last Dance, I'm just loving everything about it, from the nostalgic aspect to what crops up every single week based on the conversations that we see and what you learn. And the conversation of the day is Jordan's behavior and his drive to win and how it drove people crazy and whether he was a good guy or not, a nice guy or not. The most remarkable moment of last night's 2 hours of the documentary was when Jordan, at the end of the first episode of the night, episode 7, if you're scoring at home, talking about his will to win and his drive to win and his incessant, nonstop pushing of his teammates and seemingly breaking down. Going from 1 second saying, if you don't agree with my point of view, well, then you've never won anything, defiance, all the way down to being emotional about how people might view him. He did seem break up, Chris, right?
Absolutely.
So our poll question at Rich Eisen Show to vote on is thus on this day. Go for it, Chris.
Yeah, real simple. While watching The Last Dance, do you like Michael Jordan more, less, or the same?
Vote right now at Rich Eisen Show.
Let's do it.
He like me, born in Brooklyn, New York. I loved watching him play basketball at St. John's, and then he spent some time with the hometown New York Knickerbockers, and you're soon to see him in The Last Dance on the Indiana Pacers team that Jordan would always clash with, and he's one of the lead voices in the NBA today, and along with Jeff Van Gundy and Mike Breen, bringing you the NBA Finals every single year on the NBA on ESPN. Mark Jackson here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, man. You and your family safe?
We are, knock on wood. How about you?
Doing well, thank you.
Glad to hear that. What do you think of The Last Dance? Mark, you learning anything watching this documentary?
Well, I think it's must-see TV. You know, I said, watching the first episode that I could watch the whole thing all the way through. I think it's an outstanding inside look at greatness firsthand. And for the first time ever, Michael Jordan has allowed the curtains to be, drawn back a little bit, which I think encourages and it inspires. And it also, he's going to take some hits because of it also, because it's the first time and there's folks that can't comprehend his level of intensity of competitive drive.
So while you were on the Knicks teams in the very beginning of those battles with Jordan, what was that like, Mark?
Well, I think, I was in 2 Game 7s against that Bulls, during that Bulls run, the 92 Knicks team, previous to the year before. Charles Smith and the Knicks had him on the brinks. But that 92 team we had, we took them to a Game 7. We were loaded top to bottom. We were very deep, very talented, 2 guys at each position. We wore them down. And at that time in 1992, Michael Jordan, pretty much single-handedly beat us. He willed them to the victory. In 98 with my Pacers team, it was different. They were more of a complete basketball team and had help from top to bottom.
So competing against him and seeing, the conversation we're seeing today about his personality, nice guy or not, where do you rest on that subject, Mark?
I can say this, I've been around him quite a bit. I can remember years ago going on a Nike trip with my parents and my family and his parents and his family, along with some other guys in the league. Total class act. I mean, every time I've been around him, great guy. I just think that he has a competitive drive where he's willing to do whatever it takes to win in basketball, in life, in anything he's playing. He's been great to me. So without a doubt, he's a nice guy. Now, he was open. He said it comes with the price, winning. Now, I don't agree that if you don't understand that, then you never won, because there's not just one way of winning, but it's one way of winning for Michael Jordan. And it worked effectively and put him in position to be the greatest player of all time.
Well, in terms of being the greatest player of all time, there's no doubt about that. But you see the struggle that so many of his teammates had with him. Who was the toughest teammate you ever had, Mark?
Well, I've had tough teammates, but not like that. Nobody's going to tell me I can't grab a bite on the plane because, I didn't play well or anything. Like, that's not going to happen. You have tough teammates in the mindset of Pat Ewing, and the mindset of Charles Oakley, and the mindset of Reggie Miller. Is different brands of toughness. It's not just bravado. Sometimes toughness is, are you suiting up every night? Are you ready to face every battle, every challenge? Are you leading in different positions, whether you're coming off a 50-point game or you're coming off a game where another guy gave you 50? So toughness, I define a little different, but there's no question about his brand of leadership. Just looking at it, I think I'd like to get more of an example of who else were the leaders, because you don't just have one way of leading a basketball team. For example, the teams that I was on, whether it be that Knick team or that Bulls team, that Knick team or that Pacer team, we certainly had leadership in Patrick Ewing and Reggie Miller. But I humbly submit I was the leader in the form of verbally, vocally, holding guys accountable, giving instructions and things like that. So there's different brands of leadership. I'd like to see a better look of who else was leading in uniform during that run.
Mark Jackson here on the Rich Eisen Show. So watching this documentary, what emotions pop up for you, Mark?
Well, I had the privilege of doing a detailed analysis of Game 7, so I watched it and pretty much went over it. And, prior to that, I did a couple of interviews, and they asked me questions about different situations in the game, and I couldn't even give an answer because I didn't remember, I didn't recall. But watching the game brought back, sharp memories, and just reminded me pretty much of how close we had, arguably the greatest team that's ever been assembled. How close we had them to on the verge of losing. We're up 3 with 6 minutes to go on the road in Game 7 with a jump ball between Michael Jordan and a 7-foot 4-inch center, Rick Smits, and we lose it. Steve Kerr gets a wide open 3 off of a broken play, ties the ball game, and the rest is history. But just the thought of the great team that we had, the great times that we had, and we have nothing to be ashamed of. We got a lot to be proud of, and I think it's an inside look of not just their greatness, but how they were challenged.
Well, I guess we're looking over the steering wheel in a brief bit. That's probably going to be episode 9 coming up this weekend with the Pacers versus the Bulls in the last dance. And, one thing that just kind of struck me over this past episodes, Mark, was just the undying respect, obviously, that you would have for somebody like Jordan and who he represents and what he stands for. But, in his world of competition, it was all chum in the water for him. And then I'm watching a whole bunch of players, play pickup basketball with him on the set of Space Jam. And I'm sitting there thinking, why don't they have the opposite point of view of saying, why in the world am I helping out Michael Jordan get back into shape? You know what I'm saying? Mark?
Yeah, that's a great point. But I think the mindset of the players is not, I'm helping out Michael Jordan get in better shape. I'm getting a peak at greatness, and I'm also sharpening my tools, getting better around not just Michael Jordan, because it's not a one-man band. There's greatness all throughout the league, and there's levels to it. But just iron sharpens iron, and you're getting an opportunity to be in the midst of a workout facility with the best in the land, and no better place than to be challenged, than to compete, and then to get an inside look of just what makes this guy tick, not just him, but across the board. When you're in a gym with, you look at that video alone, that was some big-time pickup run.
Oh yeah, some of the best footage we've seen in the Last Dance was not only that game, but obviously the Monte Carlo practice for the Dream Team and all of that. Mark, it's just been great just to seeing that stuff on the inside. And you're already hearing some of the conversation that Jordan, that there's no Jordan in the NBA today. Even LeBron being as great as he is, he doesn't have that similar killer instinct that Jordan is displaying right here. How would you handle that, having such a front row seat of watching LeBron's greatness unfold in his generation, Mark?
I will say this. When it's all said and done, LeBron James will have the best NBA basketball career that there's ever been, the best basketball career. With that being said, I'm saying he's going to be the all-time leading scorer. He's going to be a top 5 assist man in the history of the game with a bunch of other accolades that we don't have enough time for me to go through. But Michael Jordan is the best player that's ever played the game. I think the difference is that mentality, that killer mentality. I think I've said it already on record. There's only 2 guys that I've faced, and I've faced the greats. And this is not a shot towards them, but there's only 2 guys that I faced that I felt that they were willing to die on the floor, and that's Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Just different mentalities and different work ethics that put them in position to, you want them on your team. And that's not a shot at LeBron James or anybody else. That's just giving credit to those 2 guys.
Would you have wanted to play with those 2 guys?
Without a doubt. That's to me, that's a trick question, because I'm not afraid to work. I'm not afraid to lead. I'm not afraid to challenge. I think they're great teammates. At the same time, what you want most from a teammate is, when the lights turn on, do I know what I'm going to get from them? And without a doubt, with those 2 guys, you knew it was going to be 100% effort, energy, and intensity.
So, again, just diving into this, because I think this is going to be the conversation once the documentary ends next Sunday, and we're going to come on the air Monday on this show and so many others, talking about who's the greatest of all time from Jordan and LeBron. That'll be one conversation. Another one will be Bulls team that we just saw, and the Lakers team that Phil Jackson took over as coach with Shaq and Kobe, so on and so forth. I think that will be the conversation we're having nationally a week from now. So I'm kind of front-loading that conversation with you right now, Mark Jackson, in the manner of why, when you say that LeBron will have the greatest career, but Jordan's the greatest player, and the difference is that he didn't have the same mentality that Jordan and Kobe had, then why do you think LeBron does not have that when he has certainly every other gift that those 2 other players had?
Well, a couple of things. I'm not going to, take Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out of the conversation.
Okay.
I think his greatness gets overlooked. So I'm not going to fast forward to just LeBron and Michael. So I think there's a list of guys that's in the discussion. When you look at Will Chamberlain's numbers, also, it blows your mind. But I'll say this: it's not a knock at LeBron. And automatically, when you say the mentality of Kobe and Michael, people fast forward and drive right up to LeBron's garage. I'm saying everybody that I've ever seen play the game, in the history of this game, there's only 2 guys. So not just LeBron, every single body else other than Michael and Kobe didn't have that mentality, including me. So it's not a knock, and I feel like I'm an outstanding competitor and I want to win, but I'm not willing to lose my life on the court for the game of basketball. That's a whole different mentality. So it's not a shot at LeBron. And it's a credit really to his greatness, and it's a credit to his overall mentality. I think when you looked at Michael in that Last Dance, when you looked at him talk and get emotional, he's saying it comes with a price. He's saying, and I don't mean losing friends. He lost relationships. I'm sure he's looking saying, well, I could have been a better father. I could have been a better husband. I could have been a better man. But I was, driven down one lane with one mindset and one goal. He's opening up. LeBron James is. I don't think at the end of the day is going to have that same story. Now he's going to say I sacrificed a little bit much and I could have been a better man, father, husband, and all of those things like all of us have, but not to the degree that Michael Jordan feels it and expressed it when we saw tears coming down the side of his face.
Mark, I appreciate the time. Before I let you go, we had Larry Brown on the other day because it was the 18th anniversary of the practice rant. And it was also the 25th anniversary of Reggie Miller doing in the Garden what he did to the Knicks and Spike Lee. And speaking as a born in Brooklyn native New Yorker from Staten Island watching St. John's, it was tough to see you on the other team that day, Mark. Very, very tough.
Are you having a Michael Jordan moment?
You know what? I've got the crying rich meme going on right now, man. Like seriously, and then. Obviously, seeing Mullen in a Pacers uniform, too, and you and Mullen together, those St. John's teams, man, were just amazing. And just the teams of my youth and who you represented and what you did. And, man, I just wanted those moments in the Garden for you in a Knicks uniform.
I would have loved it, especially after 92, taking them the Bulls to Game 7. I think if we keep that team together, we ultimately win a championship. But those were fun times, and just to correct you on one note, 25 years ago, not 20, 25
Yeah, did I say 20? Yeah, 25, right, yeah.
Reggie Miller put on an incredible performance down the stretch of a ball game that will go down as history as one of the best moments of all time, in the brightest lights, too. But Larry Brown's a Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame guy. I had a blast playing for him. And talking about Chris Mullen, I'm not the NBA player for 17 years. Had I not gone to St. John's and watched firsthand Chris Mullen work his tail off in the gym. I was a gym rat. He was a gym technician. Turned me and my mindset totally to a different level.
No kidding. Was anything that Reggie said to Spike safe for work to recount?
You know it's not. But it was enjoyable, though.
Oh, my God. And what was it like having Larry Bird as a coach?
It was great because we came off of Larry Brown, like I said, was a Hall of Fame coach, but a different mentality. His foot is on the gas pedal at all times. He's always looking to teach and nurture and complain about something, where Larry Bird just came in and just wanted to lead us, to guide us, and allow us to run the show, and was fine with no ego. He didn't have to overdo who he was. He was an outstanding coach and just what the doctor ordered for our basketball team.
And Coach Louis still around, right? Carnesecca?
Still around, doing great. It's unbelievable. I look at my phone and I see it ring, and it's Coach Carnesecca, and he talks sharp, asking about all the kids and the family. And
that's amazing.
The thing I love about it, he made a promise to my mom and dad all these years ago, and he didn't lie one time. He's a Hall of Fame coach, but more importantly, a Hall of Fame human being.
Mark, thanks for the time and going down memory lane, man. Really appreciate it, and I'd love to have you back on as the NBA, knock on wood, gets back into action sooner rather than later, we hope.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me. Keep up the awesome work and stay safe.
It means a lot to hear that from you, Mark. Thank you. That's Mark Jackson. I don't want to put him in position, I don't want to put him in a position because, look, but the number of times Susie turns to me and I turn to her as we're watching this documentary together, and she knows what this means to me. When the Garden is at front and center, everything, right? I mean, hold on a second. When we're talking about how special everything is here.
Yeah.
The old Chicago Stadium, the United Center that was born out of Jordan's greatness, right? Market Square Arena, right? We saw the Omni last night, I think, right? Didn't we see a little bit of the Omni in Atlanta last night?
Orlando, where they played?
Oh, I mean, Orlando is...
Arena?
I know, but I'm talking about old school stuff, all right? And even with Jordan in Chicago and how great that was, and, you know, they're playing Gary Glitter and everything like that, when he went to the Garden in New York City, that's when he would ratchet stuff up. Dropping the double nickel on the Knicks, coming back, and then passing, beating them with a pass to another St. John Redmond in Bill Wennington. Okay? And just seeing all these Madison Square Garden moments, Susie turns to me last night and she goes, it's just not that special anymore. And it hit me. I don't want to go down a Dolan wormhole here on NBCSN, SiriusXM, and YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show. As you know, whenever I start talking about Dolan, the gravitational force of the Dolan wormhole pulls me in. It's very difficult.
It's real
very difficult.
strong.
It's real strong.
But watching this stuff, and again, last night, it was your turn, Seattle Sonics fans, in the same way that it's been the Knicks fans' turns and the Pistons fans' turn, Laker fans' turn. Throughout this entire documentary, Jazz fans, it's gonna be you're gonna be on the clock next week. Pacers fans, you're on the clock next week. Everybody gets theirs. Everybody gets theirs, with the exception of the Knicks that one year when Jordan was just coming back, right? And just in the fact that, you know, the Magic fans got theirs in the year that Jordan came back. Knicks got theirs the year Jordan was gone.
Right.
And by the way, and we'll take a break in a quick second, on the other side of this, I want to hit one more aspect of who I am loving every single time he has appeared in this documentary. He has the same attitude of, I don't know how the hell what I did wrong, but everything I did was pretty much excellent. I love that. And then we were kind of in the middle of something on Friday night and throughout the weekend on Twitter involving DeShaun Watson and the Chicago Bears. We'll hit that next on The Rich Eisen Show with BJ Armstrong, Charlie Blackmon, and you still to come. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. This person, again, I don't want to give it away just yet. I love every time he's shown up on this documentary. He sits there with the same look on his face, the same attitude, kind of like, I was involved in this, but I did nothing wrong. I don't know where this came from. All right. All I know is that I got dragged into this craziness, and I didn't do anything to deserve it. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to.
Are you gonna save it?
We'll save it.
Save it? Okay.
Yeah, save it in a couple minutes from now.
It's
we'll
funny
tease it to our radio and
TJ
YouTube
and I had the
audience, too.
same conversation at about 8:30 this morning about this.
I didn't even hear it because
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
running
yeah,
around.
yeah,
I was
you didn't hear
running
it.
around disinfecting and getting ready for the show.
Yeah, you didn't hear it.
I know. Yep.
Yeah, it's funny that we're all on the same page.
I
here.
just love every single moment he shows up.
yeah.
He is.
I think we're all on the same page
Yes.
here.
For
All right.
sure.
Yeah.
You know? And
Same number as John Elway.
I love every time he opens his mouth. And again, Jason Hare. I want every. You know what I want? I want a show specifically, or a segment, just an extra segment, an extra of every moment Jordan has been shown something on an iPad, because they probably have not used every single time that he's been shown. Here's what somebody had to say about you, Michael. Here's somebody's point of view on your take of things. Here's what they had to say about the search situation at the time. And then him, I mean, he probably got to the point, because according to Richard Deitch, he was sat down 3 times by Jason Hare.
3 times.
He must have got to the point of every time Jason Hare handed him the iPad, he must have been like,
all right.
Okay.
Who's saying what now?
Yeah. Hand that to me,
saying
sir.
what now?
First time he probably got it, he was just like, what are we doing here? Oh, okay, let me take a look. Yeah. Second time, he's probably like, again, really? Let me see. Third time, he's probably like, sticking the napkin in, getting the knife and fork out, like, who dares to come at the king on iPad? Right?
It's great.
It is great.
Oh, man.
great.
I would just take a montage of the number of times he was handed the iPad.
Yeah. They're among the best segments of this documentary.
Are amazing.
It's phenomenal.
They're amazing.
Okay. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a few short seconds here on The Rich Eisen Show. Back on the Rich Eisen show. The Last Dance, we just had a nice chat with Mark Jackson. I can't get enough of this guy every single time he shows up on camera on The Last Dance. And we got BJ Armstrong, who was all over it last night. And I do love his takes. His takes on everything are great. And he was at the front and center of everything. All the way up until, he got bounced in the final season of this documentary, in The Last Dance. But he beat Jordan in the playoffs. I loved it. And he was there again when Jordan retired for the first time, when his father passed away, when they won their first 3 championships. He's the one that Jordan called after he left White Sox camp over not wanting to be part of the harebrained scheme of Major League Baseball using replacement players during their labor dispute. He wanted no part of that. And he calls up BJ Armstrong saying, hey, what you up to? You want to go grab something to eat? And he's like, you know what I'm doing. I'm going to practice. And I'm wondering again if BJ Armstrong inviting Michael Jordan to practice at that breakfast is what sparked the comeback, or Jordan was already in when he called BJ and he knew BJ would invite him. Can't wait to talk to BJ about that. But the guy I cannot get enough of, because he just sits back with a calm, cool demeanor and has the attitude the entire time of like, I'm just living my life. I got dragged into this whole thing. I had nothing to do with the craziness around me. I have no idea what these people's major malfunction was. I have no idea why they didn't like me to begin with.
I barely speak English.
I'm just living my life. It's Tony Kukoc.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And every time he's just like, all right, I'm trying to survive in my war-torn native country, and they come in the Olympics and try to beat me up just because I'm not coming right away because I want to make a few more $1 million and still live at home when my family's in the line of fire. And then I show up in Chicago and I actually start kicking ass for them and taking names for him, and then all of a sudden Jordan retires, which I had nothing to do with, and everybody's looking at me to try and take up the slack, which I actually did, and then it comes time for me to actually win a game for them in the playoffs, and Scotty Pippen won't get off the bench, and everybody's looking at me like it's my fault, and all I do go out is I hit the game-winning shot. And he sits there like with the same stance, right, sitting back in his chair.
Yeah, he's super relaxed. He's got a little gut going on like Mike, and he's just kind of like,
look, we're all in advancing years.
Yeah, of course.
And Kukoc is just like, I don't know what's the matter with these people.
It's great.
Like every time.
It's great.
He does lead the Last Dance in the palms up sort of, arm movement. Sort of like the Nick Saban, I'm just trying to live my he's this close to pulling a full Nick Saban, which is I'm just trying to live my life and trying to play basketball and trying to be myself, and all this crazy stuff happens. So quit asking.
I'm totally with you.
He's this close to pulling a Maria Taylor on him.
Totally with you. Love when Kukoc pops up.
It's amazing.
It's great.
And all he's trying to do is just get through that Scotty Pippen stuff where they said that, and kudos again to my old-time friends and colleagues and current people that I didn't work with at the time at ESPN for letting the F-bombs go and just basically saying at the top, mature audiences only, put the kids to bed, and just let it go. And the way that basically Phil, the way they told the story about what Phil said to Scotty, again, he's the one who told Michael at the end of their first championship run, who else is out there? And the answer is Paxson, and Michael passed him the ball. We're supposed to be over all that. But now that it's Scotty's turn, the fact that he didn't turn to Scotty, and Scotty says, I'm not getting off the bench. And he said that he wouldn't have done it differently.
He doubled down. Low key, the biggest moment of last night's episode in terms of news is that Pippen says he wouldn't have done anything differently.
Susie and I rewound that because she's like, did he say that he would not do it?
Yeah, it took a
He would not do it differently? We rewound it.
I did
because, with his deep voice, it's sometimes...
Nope. He would do it exactly the same. he'd still sit it out.
Wow. I know. And then
his reputation, his image, took a huge dent after that.
Well, we're still talking about it today. And Jordan even said that he's better than that. Steve Kerr, who's now coached championship teams, saying that Cartwright was crying.
Yeah,
Cartwright was crying. And all these guys are saying that today. And they were all just saying, I can't believe he did that, with the exception of one guy. Tony Kukoc. He's like, I'm just trying to make a shot.
And by the way,
that's all he was doing all year.
Shot.
That's all he was doing all year.
Great shot. Nailed it. Won the game.
And by the way, I've been making shots all year, so yeah, give me the ball. And the answer is, what's the matter with these people?
Save Scotty's ass. Like, it's unbelievable.
All right, we'll hit the DeShaun Watson stuff in our final hour that kicks off with BJ Armstrong. What's the matter with these people? Very well known for the evil Cersei Lannister on Game of Thrones, for which we are huge fans. Great to see you, Lena, Headey, here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Hello.
I'm a big fan. I'll just start off the interview that way. I don't care. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
When you first got the gig, you knew that you were going to live till the walk because of the books?
Yes.
Is that what you were saying?
No. David and Dan were like, this is what we have for her. Like, this is where she goes.
They had the Walk of Shame planned out all the way from Jump Street?
Yes.
No kidding.
I mean, those boys are very clever. They had a plan all along for all of us, and it was slow. You know, the reveals were slow, and that's what makes it so exciting.
So then season 6 script comes. You're flipping through the pages to see if you've met your maker. Right. Then what about the final season? When you got the script, what did you do with that?
Same thing. I think all of us were like, okay, I'm still in.
Okay, so which one was happiest by the end?
I can't tell you that.
That was a sneaky way of doing that.
That
was nice.
That was so smooth.
That was creative.
Who are you most concerned from the cast that is actually going to give something away?
Okay, but that's good. He's passed the test.
What do you mean?
You can just butter him up with a bit of booze.
I didn't know that.
Oh, man. We've got so much around here, too.
We're going to book him again and just, that's just water in our mugs.
Get him sozzled and I'll tell you everything.
I have met the Mountain in person.
Have?
Yes. He's the hugest individual I've ever met.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
The amount of food he consumes. Well, it's like we have to cut because Hathor has to have his 7th chicken of the day.
So
I'm not joking.
He dominates craft service?
Yes.
Is that what he does? He's out there?
They literally bring him like a feast every hour so he doesn't faint.
Where are you going to watch the finale?
I'm going to watch it with some mates, with some booze.
Okay. And just toast off Cersei.
Say what an amazing, amazing 9 years.
Okay. So Cersei Lannister will be in the finale of Game of Thrones. I think I've just learned that.
Rich. Love your show, buddy.
This is The Rich Eisen Show. Live from The Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
We're going to do this. If we can't do it, we'll let you know when we can.
Earlier on the show, Fox Sports college football analyst Bruce Feldman. From NBC Sports, Peter King. ESPN NBA analyst Mark Jackson. Coming up, 3-time NBA champion BJ Armstrong. Plus, Colorado Rockies outfielder Charlie Blackmon. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Final hour of this Monday show here on NBCSN, YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show, Sirius XM Channel 211. We've got Charlie Blackmon of your Colorado Rockies joining us shortly in this hour. Peter King joined us in the previous hour along with Mark Jackson. If you missed any of it, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show, or our Twitter handle. It usually has tons of videos at Rich Eisen Show, is also the spot where Chris Brockman has placed our poll question for the day. And before we get to our next guest, give us an update, Christopher.
Yeah, watching The Last Dance, do you find yourselves liking Michael Jordan more, less, or the same? Less, 8%. The same, 25%. And 67% are liking Michael Jordan.
Liking him more. I love it.
I already loved Michael Jordan, my favorite player. Obviously, I rock Jordan brand all the time. And I'm liking him more watching this.
Well, you know what I like too, and I'll describe it. Don, could you put that full screen up that we have supporting our poll question? The more is Jordan with the fist. Looks like he just made the game-winning shot, right? Right? In a very understated way, giving you the fist pump. The less is him looking back, looking a little bit glum in the playing days. The same was the shrug he gave Magic Johnson after he made his 19th three in the NBA Finals against the Blazers. Great choice of the same. Great choice of the same. Love it. At Rich Eisen Show is where you can vote. Well done, Evan. Good job, brother. This was a guy I called last night because he said call anytime, and I took him up on that. Certainly when I saw him all over the first episode of last night's The Last Dance, and he was over the second episode too. He was really in the middle of everything in his first stint with the Bulls, and then we saw him in his moment with Charlotte last night during The Last Dance as he gave a little bit of the business to Jordan and the Bulls bench when they're hitting a game-winning shot in the playoffs for Charlotte, who he was with at the time, our buddy BJ Armstrong back here in the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, BJ?
Oh, Rich, I'm doing well, and like I said, anytime. You and Susie are,
Thanks.
you guys are family. So you called, and here we are, and you call anytime.
Right back at you on that. Now, I'm wondering what it's like to watch back moments of your glory, and also knowing that you're barking at the bench, no doubt, added fuel to the fire. What do you sit there and go, great shot, but please don't yell at the bench? Do you do that when you're sitting there last night, BJ?
Well, now at my age now, I'm looking like, what were you doing? What were you thinking, right? So I'm looking at myself going, okay, what were you thinking about? But back then, I didn't know any other way other than to compete, sure. Rich. So as a young man, that's what you do. And that's how I learned how to play is you lay it out on the line, you play, you come to win, you come to compete. So, I've been on the other side of, the winning, and I've been on the side of losing. And the one thing you always want to establish, especially when you're in the playoffs, is that, you know what, you came to fight. You came and you were going to bring the energy that was necessary. But it was funny. I was laughing the whole time. It was just so funny to think about, playing and all of those things that you do. And you know what, you get caught up in the game and the emotion, and certainly it was a big win for us as we were starting that series out, even the series 1-1. But as always, Michael and the Bulls, they made the adjustments, and they eventually they won the championship that year. They won the next 3 games against us. But certainly I was laughing. I was just really in tears laughing about the whole incident.
I bet. Are your kids watching and just seeing what Dad's doing? Stuff
my kids are watching, and it's funny. That's why I was laughing. It's so funny to see their response. They're like, "Dad, what were you doing?" Like, it's like, yeah, that's what you do. If you're going to play, play. If you're not, then go sit down. So. But it's been fun, and all our friends and former teammates and guys, they make fun of you, and it's fun to relive those times. But you know what? That's a game we all played, and we had fun doing it, and everyone has a sense of humor about it now. So it's but those were fun times and brought back some good memories.
BJ Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen Show. What was it like where were you when you found out Jordan was retiring for the first time? Where were you?
Rich, the one thing I do recall is that it happened very close to the season. I think it was only like 2 or 3 days before we were about to start training camp, or somewhere around
October.
there.
Yeah. October. Yep.
And sometime in like October or sometime. It was right before. So, the one thing that I remember is that we didn't have time to like prepare for this moment, and you don't just lose. We felt like we were losing a family member, right? We were losing a great player, but we were more concerned about, the person and what he was going through in his life and his personal life. And then we didn't have time to put together the team or get ourselves ready or try to figure out how we were going to play. It was like it happened quickly. And by the way, we have a season about to start. So, what I remember most about that season was you saw the emergence of Scotty Pippen, and that's the one thing that I always recall, and to never lose sight that, Scotty Pippen was an MVP, caliber player that year. He had an amazing season. I would always argue that was probably his best season individually that he had, and he was just incredible. I mean, for you to go from the number 2 guy to the number 1 guy, and then he was consistently hands down a top 5 player, and he could have easily been the MVP of the league that year. And that's what allowed us to make that transition, because there was no time to do it. I mean, we all were just kind of doing this on the fly, and then we ended up winning 55 games that year. We ended up taking the Knicks to 7 games in the conference semifinals. So it was a very successful year that we had, and everyone just kind of did it and moved on. And Phil did a great job as well coaching. That might be probably his finest hour as well, coaching individually, because we had to figure it out as we went along.
Well, and putting it all together, what you just said, BJ, the 7th game against the Knicks, you got to it because Kukoc made the shot in Chicago when Scotty wouldn't come off the bench. So that was such a fascinating part of last night's Last Dance documentary. Were you all surprised in the huddle that Phil called a play for Tony and not Scotty?
Well, when you're in the moment, you're just trying to figure out how to win the game. And we had played well enough to win that game, and we had a sense of desperation because we were already down 0-2. So that was a must game for us as we were coming back home. And sometimes, as a player, you have a feel. Sometimes as a coach, you have a feel. And you know what? It wasn't a matter if it was right or wrong. I understood where Scotty was coming from. I understood, and I got where Phil felt that was the best opportunity for us to potentially win that game. And it was just, it happened. When I remember playing, it was happening, but I couldn't get sidetracked with that, because we still had to figure out how to win this game. So Tony hits the shot, and the one thing I do remember still, like it happened yesterday, was the speech that Bill Cartwright gave. I mean, it was one of the most heartfelt speeches I've ever seen. And Bill was clearly, he had so much wisdom and what he brought to that moment, because that moment could have gone a bunch of different ways. But Bill was able to somehow resolve the issue where, everyone in that room understood what had just happened. And Bill didn't have a lot of things to say. He chose his words carefully, but he said what needed to be said, and he brought so much passion. I remember, he was in tears about what happened, because we cared about Scotty. We cared about our group. We had come too far and done too many things and experienced too many things to allow anything on the outside to disrupt this group. So, to this day, I tip my hat off to Bill. That was one of the great moments in my basketball career of having an opportunity to see leadership at its apex. And that was one of those moments because it needed to be said, and he said it. We resolved it. We moved on, and we were able to play and win the next game. And ultimately, almost win that series.
So what did you think of when you heard Scotty say last night that he would not have changed that moment, that he would not have gone back and handled it differently if he had the opportunity?
Yeah, it's like one of those things. I chuckled, right? And I chuckled when I heard that because I know Scotty, and I know, the pressures that it takes to be, in that position. And I can only imagine what he was feeling at that time. And I can only imagine all of the things that we all were feeling, right? We all felt the burden of allowing New York to come back and tie up that game. So I got it. But I do know this: when the game had to be played and what we were going to do, we knew Scotty was going to be there, and he knew we were going to be there for him. So it was like one of those things. It was said, but you know what? Scotty is our guy. We love him, and we know the type of guys and relationship that we have with one another. And then you move on. So, but I laughed when I heard that, because you know what? It was just like, yeah, you do things, and we all saw what happened. But the thing is, as a group, as a team, we are always going to figure out things, and that was what I knew about our group. We will figure it out as we go along.
So one of the things that we laugh about, BJ, here on our show, Chris Brockman and I, and the rest of us watching this documentary, is Kukoc's reaction. Does he think you're all just totally insane? I mean, just the Americans are just insane. It's just like, what's the matter with you people?
It's great that you picked up on it. When I first met Tony, it was like in 1984 and 85, we played against each other in high school, and Tony has this sense of humor. And being around him, you catch it, but it's really funny because he talks that way, like, hey, what's going on? Do you really know what's happening here? He has this sense of humor, so you picked up on it. Tony is really funny that way.
Just like, what's the matter with you people?
I was just talking to him recently.
Right.
But that's his sense of humor. And you got to be around him to get it. But that's funny that you picked up on that.
Yeah. We just think he sits there every time just like, I'm just trying to play my game. I'm just trying to be myself. And these people are insane. Like, Krause and Michael. I had nothing to do with that. I had nothing to do with anything other than I'm just trying to win a game. That's basically what it looks like to me.
I know he's really funny, and that's him though. He's like, he says it with like a straight face, so it makes it funnier.
Yes.
He's like, hey, what are you talking about? Like, what are these people doing? Like, But
that's what it looks like to me.
He really has a sense of humor. So that's a really good catch by you.
Thank you, BJ Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen Show. A few more minutes left with BJ. So you're sitting around one day, and Michael Jordan, who's left White Sox camp because of the labor dispute with baseball, he calls you up and he's just asked you what's going on, and you eventually invite him to the Berto Center, and suddenly he's coming back. So my question for you is, if you didn't invite him to the Berto Center, would the comeback have happened, or do you think he called you up knowing he's already coming back and you were just part of the plan? BJ, walk me through that.
I have no idea. I'm gonna say the latter. I think I was just part of the plan, right? I think he, in the end, I don't know what it was. I just knew that Rich wanted just to be a good friend, right? He'd always be there for me. He would always call me during the season. I was calling him, and we were just checking in on one another to make sure things were good. And the one thing I wanted him to be, and one thing I wanted him to know was that, hey, whatever you need, we're always here, and you're always welcome, and that you're not alone on whatever you have going on, and that was it. So when he did call, or however we got together, I was just like, okay, let's see what's going on. I haven't seen him in a while, and it was good. And one thing led to another, and we're talking, and we kind of like, it just happened. But I firmly believe that, that all of us, right? All of us, the entire team, the group, we always wanted him to know that he was part of our group. And we always wanted him to know that whatever he had going on, he always had a home, and he could come there and share that with us. So, I don't know what it was. I knew he felt comfortable enough to come back in the building, continue talking all the trash that he talks, be the big personality that he was, but more importantly, to be one of the guys. And that was great for him. I thought it was great for the game. And here I'll just say I'm taking no credit for that, because in the end, you just want to see your friends happy. And that was one of the great moments for all of us, because we picked up where we left off, and everyone was just talking trash. He's still talking to everyone. He's doing his thing. And it was a great moment for all of us, because everyone was happy to see him when he did when he did come back in the building.
Well, his thing, BJ, was front and center as part of the documentary last night, and whether it was something that was right. Obviously, it was something that needed to happen in order to win and bring everybody along with him and understand what you needed to do in order to be in his orbit. But the question is, his thing, was it sometimes too much? You even asked the question, they included in the documentary, is he a nice guy or not? And we saw Jordan at one point say, if you don't agree with it, that means you haven't won anything, which is defiant, if not only, insulting to some people potentially. But then you could see he broke down. He broke down talking about the pressure of having that attitude. What did you think of when you saw that last night, BJ?
Well, I think, Rich, when this first started, I kind of always, I was a little bit, I didn't know how this was going to turn out, because I know that side. I know that side of him, that he's competitive, and I know what it could look like from the outside looking in. But I also know that if you're going to make a commitment to excellence, you got to make this commitment. Either you're all in and you're all out. The thing, Rich, about him that I know and that we all know, and I think we're seeing it, and I think there probably will go there in episode 9 and 10, is that, Rich, he loved the game. And he had this respect for the game at the highest level, right? The goal wasn't to be the greatest player. The goal wasn't to be the leading, vote getter or, MVP of the league, or to be the considered whatever it is people want to debate about. His goal was to respect the game to the highest level and always hold it as the number one priority in his life. And, Rich, that is very difficult, right? Sometimes life gets in the way. But somehow he managed to have the discipline to love the game to that degree, because, Rich, why would someone care that much? He's achieved everything individually. He's achieved everything with his team, but he loved the game that much where he cared. And that, Rich, has a vulnerability to it that I understood. He cared, Rich, and you don't practice the way you practice. You don't figure out how to prepare yourself the way he was preparing himself unless you truly, truly care. And he loved the game of basketball. He was an artist who dedicated his life to the craft. And that's what I was concerned about, because when you are living your life that vulnerable, you saw his vulnerability. You saw how he broke down. Emotionally. You saw how he prepared himself. You saw how he pushed himself. There was no reason for him to do that other than there was this innate love that he had for the game, and I got it. I got that. I didn't find a problem playing with him, because I saw something I knew I was never going to see again in my life. Someone who loved what they did to the maximum level and was willing to do whatever. He never cheated on the line drills. He never cheated the game of basketball, and everything he did was with this one focus in mind. And I just admired it from afar. And I think all of us knew what he was committed to. He made a commitment with his life to the game of basketball, and no one can argue that.
BJ, really appreciate the time as always. And screw it. I'm booking you for next week too. We got to get your 2 cents on when we're through this whole thing, for sure.
Well, thank you, Rich. Anytime. You
Thanks,
guys
BJ.
be well. Stay safe.
You too. That's BJ Armstrong, 3-time NBA champion. And again, one of the 3 players the year after Jordan left to make the All-Star game. Scotty Pippen, Horace Grant, and BJ Armstrong. That's quite an achievement. What a heck of a career he had, huh?
Absolutely.
Let's take a break. When we come back, breaking news apparently out of the world of Major League Baseball. And then right on cue, here's our friend from the Colorado Rockies. Love Charlie Blackmon. It's been too long since we chatted. That's next on The Rich Eisen Show. All right, Christopher, I'll bite. Again, I was chatting BJ Armstrong. What is the news out of Major League Baseball that's going on right here?
Okay, so Jeff Passan tweeting out
of ESPN
that the league
it's
owners.
Ken Rosenthal, actually.
Oh, Jeff Passan also had it too.
Okay,
that's where
sure.
I saw it first.
Okay.
The owners have approved a proposal to present to the players, and the plan is to meet tomorrow to discuss it.
Okay.
I assume this is for the return of 2020.
That's it. Okay. Don't know the details of it yet. I imagine those will leak out between now and then.
Also, the World Baseball Classic, which was set for March of next year, has been canceled.
For March of next year?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Oh, Tua signed a deal, 4 years, $30 million, fifth-year team option, obviously. Okay, baby. Here we go. I guess that means he passed the physical, sure. There you go.
Yeah, we had 19,
I love it, baby.
19 million
Let's
signing
go, man. At New England. Just let's roll.
It's going to be Fitzmagic, though, week one.
Yeah, I think it will be.
So Fitzmagic is going to end the Brady career dynasty,
and then Stidham off
end the dynasty with Stidham before it starts.
And end the Stidham dynasty. I appreciate that mentality. I like it. And our poll question still is the same right over there, Christopher. It's the people like Michael Jordan more. I knew people would.
Yeah, 68% now. Like
you have to.
He was concerned that people would look at him horribly, differently. I can't imagine. More or less of the same.
He comes across bad, and good. But
you
it's
heard
like,
what BJ had to say.
He's being a real person for once, which no one's ever seen before.
Yeah.
Right. So our friend Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies is gonna be joining us. It's amazing. Do you have that screen grab, Don? I'm sorry to say, throw it out there. The Denver Post screen grab of how they're covering the Colorado Rockies season. They're playing every Rockies game on the schedule with MLB The Season 2020 virtually. Awesome. And here's the headline. I don't know if Charlie's aware. We'll bring it up again. But he had 2 home runs yesterday, virtually. Great day for Charlie. And I think they've trimmed the beard. I mean, virtually trimmed the beard.
It looks tight there.
So there he is, 2-run shot. He hits 2 home runs. God, do we need baseball back?
Oh,
let's hope that the plan is something that's doable, that the virus will not break up and the players are into it. So we're back in less than 30 seconds with our friend Charlie Blackmon. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. A bunch of people who cover the world of Major League Baseball, who we follow on Twitter, from Ken Rosenthal to Jeff Passan to our friend John Heyman of MLB Network and more, is saying that the ownership of Major League Baseball has approved a proposal for playing a part of the 2020 season to present to the Players Union. Meeting expected between the union and the league tomorrow, according to John Heyman. The plan calls for about a half season of regular season games, though it's negotiable depending on players' approval and, of course, health data. Of course, the wear is a big issue, too. Love this guy. He's one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. He's one of our favorite guests whenever we want to talk baseball, and he's been kind enough to join us here on the Rich Eisen Show from the Colorado Rockies, the 4-time All-Star Charlie Blackmon. How are you, Charlie?
Hey, Rich. Thanks for having me back.
Wait, please, come on, man. You are always welcome here. Where have you sheltered in place, Charlie?
I am currently in Denver.
Okay.
And that way I feel like I am not on complete vacation. I'm here in my home park, trying to stay focused, trying to stay ready, because we don't have a whole lot of information. But hopefully that changes tomorrow.
So what are you hearing? What are you and your fellow Rockies and also colleagues across Major League Baseball you might be in contact with hearing right now?
So tomorrow there's going to be a meeting between the Players Association leadership and Major League Baseball, and they're going to discuss some sort of outline upon which we can hopefully return to playing the game. Everybody wants to play. We haven't had a lot of information the past few weeks, month. We're just kind of sitting on ready, just trying to stay in shape. So hopefully this is the beginning where we get the ball rolling and we move towards normalcy.
Well, in terms of that, we'll get to how you're staying in shape and how you've been spending part of your quarantine in a second. You said everybody wants to play. You basically think that, you can safely say your colleagues, your friends in the game are like, let's do this thing. Is there a large but? What do you think?
Yes and no. I am surprised at this point that we don't have any, or we don't have more confirmed cases among players in the game. Most of the players are pretty far removed from New York, but all of the teams are playing in major cities, and you can't ignore the fact that there is a pandemic going on. But I think we have the ability to test frequently enough and do our best at isolating players such that we can get going. A lot of players have concerns. I'm one of them. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to bring people together such that other people get sick, especially those that are at risk. But at the same time, I'm not playing. I'm not getting paid. Neither are a lot of the people that work at the stadium. There's a lot of people that depend on Major League Baseball for their livelihood. But bigger than that, it's this country needs baseball. We need to get back to summer life. We get back to normalcy, being able to watch live events on TV. We need that badly.
Yeah, I don't blame you for saying that, Charlie. You're spot on there, and I just want to give you the floor here and what you meant by that. That this country needs baseball and the opportunity that baseball does have here of having the stage and taking it.
Yeah, I mean, it's when was the last time you watched a live event? I mean, so you watched the NFL draft, and that was done remotely. It's just something that we missed. I think it's crazy how many of my friends that I talk to that are watching, reruns of old baseball games, or pretty much everybody burned through the Michael Jordan documentary. Anything that's relevant to current events in terms of, especially in the sporting world, is important to our culture right now.
Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies here on the Rich Eisen Show. Just a couple more questions about this, and then I do want to just, catch up with you here. So would you be fine quarantining if the proposal comes to you that, hey, you will have to go to a spot and spend at least 14 days there, and then maybe the way that we get through all this is that baseball settles in one spot? I'm hearing that's not going to be the proposal, that it will be actually where you would be able to play in Colorado and then figure out who can get to you and where you can get to safely. But if it's quarantine, is that an issue, Charlie?
No, that's not an issue. Guys around the league work so hard to get here. If you were to say, hey, all we have to do to play baseball is quarantine, you're like, I'm not batting an eye at that. That's, I'm quarantining right now. I mean, I'm doing everything I can do to stay healthy and safe and not spread this to my teammates. I mean, it's not something we haven't already been doing. I'm definitely prepared to do that.
And did you take that antibody test? Were you one of the many who took that?
I have not taken it. I have inquired about it and done some research, and I know that there are some tests that aren't as accurate as they need to be just yet. There are some tests that are better. I am going to try and get one through the team, through Major League Baseball. We're going to have to test everybody really soon, in my opinion. So I'm going to hold out until then. I haven't experienced any symptoms.
So
I don't.
What about you in terms of your when you're talking about quarantine? What about some of your colleagues who have wives and children and things like that, Charlie? I mean, is that a problem about quarantining and staying away from family members for weeks, months at a time?
Yeah, that is a big problem, but I kind of fall on the line of, this is what I've chosen to do, and this is my life's work, and this is really important, and it's also probably why I'm pretty good at it so far. It's what I want to do, and there's a lot of sacrifices I've made, and I'm willing to make some more sacrifices to play the game in terms of my life away from the field. Do I think there's an ability to include your family within the quarantine? Yeah, I think there's some wiggle room there. Significant others, kids, as long as they're willing to, be in quarantine as well. They can't be out going all over town, going shopping at the mall, and then come get you sick, and then you go to the park and get everybody else sick. But, I think that might be a necessary evil, at least early on, until we get things figured out.
Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, what have you been doing outside of getting ready for the campaign, sir, that we're hoping you actually go and rake in? What do you got?
It's weird having all this free time. I tell you, I'm usually very scheduled, especially this time of year. I've got travel, and the next 7 months are planned out for me. So in my free time, I've gone fishing. I got a new puppy dog. I've been doing a lot of work. We'll call it work. A lot of videos promoting charitable fundraisers in the community, graduation videos. I've done some podcasts. I recently did a podcast with my friend Chad Belding, who hosts The Foul Life on the Outdoor Channel.
Yeah, Chad Belding, right? His podcast, This Life Ain't for Everybody. Yeah, you've done that.
Yeah, he gets he's a duck hunter, and that's what his show's about. He likes popular culture and athletes, and he interviews some guys on his podcast. Did one of those. I've somehow managed to get this huge chunk of time and then still feel like I've squandered it. I don't have a whole lot to show for it, and I'm a little bit embarrassed.
Okay, but I mean, you're not alone, Charlie. You are not alone. So, if you haven't become a concert pianist out of this thing, I understand. But have you binge watched any programs? Or have you done anything like that? Did you do the Tiger King? Did you do that? Or
oh yeah, did the Tiger King. Haven't finished the Michael Jordan thing yet.
Okay.
There's a lot of Netflix, Amazon Prime going on in our house. I've recently told my wife I'm going to cut back on the Call of Duty video games.
Okay.
I was getting pretty far down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
I'm now considering myself an expert dog trainer after all the YouTube videos that I've watched.
Oh, so you get the Cesar Millan in you a little bit, Charlie? You got a little bit of that going on? I like that. All right. The beard, Charlie. We know what it's like during a playing season. I imagine what it's like in quarantine. Charlie, what do you got for me there?
It's worse. It's
oh man,
I haven't got a haircut, a beard trim. Dude. I mean, since we, it's been a couple months now, so I'm looking a little rough. It's kind of hard to hide this beard under a mask.
It's about to say.
It's like a situation, like its own respiratory situation. When I put the mask on, I've got the beard, the mask. It's hard to breathe already.
Oh man. Yeah. So can we get a current photograph of it? Would you mind taking one and tweeting it out at Rich Eisen Show for our records?
Yeah, we can do that. I've got some time, actually.
Well, I don't know if you're aware what the Denver Post is doing locally. They're playing your games on MLB The Show 2020, and you had a hell of a day yesterday. Are you aware of that, Charlie?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you had 2 home runs.
I had no idea.
You had 2 home runs in their virtual, and there's a great shot of you, from the video game, and the beard is clearly not what it is now because it's nice and tight, looks trim. But you raked yesterday virtually, so congratulations.
Well, thank you. I work really hard for that.
Taking it just one virtual game at a time. All right, so will you please, at Chuck_Nasty, please take out a photograph of you currently and then tweet it at Rich Eisen Show, and we will share it with our viewers and listeners as well, just to check this thing out.
You got it.
Excellent. I appreciate the time, Charlie, and I hope, I really do hope that what happens and is presented to you and the rest of your membership and the rest of your playing colleagues is something that everybody feels that we can do. My kids miss it, man. I miss it. The country, as you said, could really use it, but obviously everybody's got to be on the same page and be safe about it, you know?
Yeah, I just hope that our goal is to get back on the field and play the game, right? Like, that's what we need. That's what both sides want. I hope we don't get caught up in the politics too much. You know, I would like to expedite this situation and get back to playing ball.
Now, when you say politics, you're not talking about American politics. Are you just talking about the internal?
Well, no. I mean, I that's a whole nother show, Rich.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, Charlie. But I mean, in terms of the inner workings of baseball, I mean, everybody, right? I mean, this is the opportunity for the national pastime as when I was a kid to get out there. I would watch any game, anytime, any inning, anything. Again, if I'm understanding that everybody's all on the same page and it's not going to get anybody harmed in making the product, you know?
Yes. I mean, right up there with we need to get back on the field and play. We got to keep guys healthy. And then I just hope those are the only two factors, right? I hope we don't get caught up in money or interest here or there on either side that aren't getting on the field and playing. And staying healthy. I hope nothing else gets in the way.
Charlie, me too. I appreciate the time, man. Miss chatting with you. You're one of my favorite guests, certainly from the world of baseball, and you're just a regular dude just trying to rake and make ends meet and be out there for everybody. So I really appreciate it. Good luck. Let's keep in touch.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
Right back at you, and I look forward to that photograph.
All right.
Okay, there we go. It's Charlie Blackmon. I cannot imagine what that looks like if it has not been cut or tended to for months.
Castaway situation.
My God. Looking for Wilson the volleyball. When we come back, your phone calls 844-204-RICH. We'll set up the rest of the week. We've got some great guests going on. There's a latest rumor out there from a longtime chronicler of the National Football League and covering the National Football League about why Brady left. There's the latest on that. And then we found ourselves in the middle of a bit of a Twitter kerfuffle involving DeShaun Watson, the Chicago Bears, and our show at some point. That happened on Friday night. We'll revisit it on Monday. That's next on The Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH. We'll take your calls in a second. Hey, everybody. So how's your mom, Mike Del Tufo?
She's doing good. I talked to her yesterday again.
That's good.
Every other day.
That's good.
She's home. She hasn't been out of the house, and
it's
crazy.
Is a dreadful pandemic for people of your mom's age. My mom doesn't get out a lot at all. And it is terrible. But that's the way she stays safe, right? Stay home.
Yeah. How's your mother?
She's good.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. She's well. We had a whole family Zoom. My brother and his kids and me and Suze and our kids. We all Zoomed with my mom yesterday and did the same with her mom later in the day. So
there's no way my mom could figure out Zoom.
Oh, yeah, she could. I got my 91-year-old mother doing FaceTime.
What do you mean your mother
can't
figure out Zoom?
I'm telling you.
100%.
She's got a Twitter account and can't figure out Zoom?
She can do it.
Come on.
It took forever to get just the Instagram working.
We could do it. You could do it. I'll land that plane.
It would take a while.
I'm Sully. I could land her. I could totally land her. I could get her to work.
You can have that.
Trust me, my mother is like landing on the Hudson with anything I do.
But I'm telling you, it involves the process of downloading it to your computer, finding out where that is, opening that up, creating a login, getting the name of the Zoom room and the password.
Your mom had a Twitter. She's got a Twitter account. She tweets.
Which I set up for her 10 years ago.
Okay.
And then all she does is got to log in. Brogman does have a point
Right, I'm
there.
just saying. There's
but
a lot.
I got the odds on
There's
there.
a lot of steps.
Your mother would be able to do it.
A lot of steps.
I think your mother can get on a Zoom.
100%.
By the way, it's a simple thing. You send her the link. She clicks on it. It will find Zoom for her. Then you get on that link and just accept the meeting. Don't set a password up for it. And it's a simple thing. And then once you're in there, I think you can do it. If my mom could, is your mom Zooming?
My mother can do everything. FaceTime, I got her doing everything.
FaceTime is you just answer the phone.
No, I mean, but she does everything on their computer.
Okay.
We've Zoomed.
All right.
She can do it.
Come on, Chris.
Yeah.
You don't want any piece of it?
FaceTime's good enough.
That's the man who's got a little baby at home and he's got enough going on
FaceTime
there.
works.
Okay. FaceTime's enough.
FaceTime's enough.
We're back with your calls in a second. Listen to us every single day, whenever you want, thanks to our friends at Podcast One. That's where our podcast lives every day, podcastone.com/Rich Eisen, all 3 hours of the program. Our first hour, Bruce Feldman came on and gave us an update on what's going on in college football, which is essentially shrug emoji. We don't know. Nobody knows if there's going to be a football season in college football, but if it is based on whether there are kids on campus, then I would have an issue with college football's readiness this year. Now, obviously, the NFL could just go ahead and just get, as Peter King pointed out, 200,000 tests and keep testing everybody and figure that out and be vigilant and trace and try and play a season. And I sure hope that baseball figures it out. Could you imagine, Chris, that we're sitting there in July, what have you, and it'll be odd that there won't be players. There'll be players in the stands as opposed to the dugout because you got to be socially distant. And that when you get on first base, you round first, and then you flip the helmet and you take off your batting glove and the shin guards. You flip it to somebody who comes out with gloves on to pick up your shin guards, and then you put on your mask and run the bases in your mask. Is that possible? Because you're standing right next to the first baseman, and you got a mask on.
So are you batting with a mask on, or
maybe you have to? Maybe you got to bat with a mask on.
If you hit a single and
maybe you bat with a mask on.
Base coach
and the mask has the Colorado Rockies logo on it, and it's team issued, and off you go. And everybody can start buying their masks on MLBshop.com, and maybe it's another way for people to get masks. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out here, man. But I would watch it. I told a friend of mine who's very high up in the world of Major League Baseball. I told this person this very weekend that, with all due respect, I've never watched 9 straight innings of a Diamondbacks Rangers game or a Diamondbacks Padres game. Never. I would. Now, I would. My kids are dying for it. They would love to do it. They'd love to see it. But, in the same way that I was watching some of the UFC this weekend, and I'm like, it's tough for me to watch. Just like, how is this guy whose face looks like total mincemeat not picking up COVID-19 somehow? How is this possible? And what's this going to look like a week to 10 days from now? I hope there's nothing. Wouldn't that be amazing? And NASCAR's next. We'll see how that goes. And then Phil, Tiger, Brady, Manning.
Yeah.
And then
in 2 weeks.
PGA and the PGA Tour. They're next. And these are all, we'll see how it goes. And baseball's got to make a decision now to see if it's go time by July.
Gotta get ready.
Yeah, and the NBA is going to have to be close on that front too, unless they could keep pushing it back and keep pushing it back. Baseball, you got a weather you have to worry about. The NBA, you play in whenever you want.
But the NBA needs to figure out if they're going to finish this.
I think
season.
The NBA is going to start 2020, 2021 in December.
Like Christmas is opening day, essentially?
Like, let's just make that announcement that that's happening now and give us enough wiggle room on how to finish up 1920. And figure that out. Again, the NFL, as Peter King pointed out at the very top of our NBCSN show, the NFL has time on its side. The NFL has no reason to right now say, we are figuring out what to do in September. We've got this contingency plan or that one. We have no idea what therapeutics may come about, what may happen. Hopefully it changes, because right now, again, I don't know how to get tested, and I know a bunch of people that don't know how to get tested, and a lot of people don't know if they're asymptomatic or not, and it's really crazy. It's really crazy. And none of it looks like it's right around the corner and about to get fixed. I mean, July 4th weekend is 6 weeks away. A month and a half. Now, that said, a day in the life of our current experience feels like a year.
Exactly.
844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Our buddy Al in Dallas, you're here on the Rich Eisen Show. It's been a while. What's up, Al?
Richard, how are you?
I'm
Congratulations on the new format. You're getting a lot of great guests and great,
Thanks, pal.
Great spots.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
I've been on and off the phone today. So did you guys bring up the George Karl conversation?
Yeah, we brought up the fact that Jordan used the fact that George Karl did not come up and say hello to him and Ahmad Rashad in a restaurant before the NBA Finals in Chicago, and used that as a reason to go beat his ass. Yes.
Oh my God! I mean that if you know that's the best thing. Those type of stories are the best things that come out of The Last Dance. Is these little things that this maniac uses to motivate himself.
Right.
It's like Mike Del Tufo, doing the same thing, when he's doing his thing. He's just, if you're not on the same page as him, dominating the boards, he's going to let you know about it. And I mean,
we come to work scared every day, Al. We come to work scared every day. We got to raise the level of our game. We got to raise the level of our game. We got to all come in wearing stuff we didn't pay for. We've got to all come in and blame others for stuff that maybe you're responsible for. We all got to raise the level of our game.
I was quite damn act
together. Thank you very much.
I was quite disappointed in no reaction from Brockman when I came out of Mike's mouth, by the way.
That's all good. Thanks for the call, Albert. You take care of yourself. That's Al in Dallas.
I will say maniac is the right word. The fact that he made up the whole Bradford Smith.
That was fantastic.
It's like,
I mean,
and then it had the same number of points he had the night before in the first half.
I mean, yeah,
it really is something else. It really is something else. But they still would have beaten the Seattle Sonics, even if George Karl went up to him and said hello. Even some people are saying he would have probably used that. Like, how dare he would come up to me in my restaurant, whatever. I don't know. Probably not. I don't know.
They were huge favorites in the series. They were up 3-0. It was over.
And then just again, I want to see an extra from The Last Dance of every moment they replayed something that they've already picked up from another person, another guest, another interviewee that they then played for Jordan.
Even ones they didn't use.
Oh man, I want to see.
Well, I hope in the final episodes we get a Karl Malone talking about it, and then they show Jordan what Malone said.
I mean,
the looks on his faces when he gets those iPads and his reactions have just been phenomenal. They've been great. So then, let me hit up on this one here on the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. So I'm sitting around on Friday night having a glass of wine. We're done for the evening. And I look down at my Twitter feed, and I'm seeing, I guess, a back and forth between John Feinstein, the author, and Doug Gottlieb about something involving DeShaun Watson, who then retweets it all by saying, the Bears never talked to me once, never once talked to me. That's what he says. And they were talking about the choice of Trubisky over Watson and Mahomes, and how I guess Doug Williams had said that race was involved in that, and Doug Gottlieb took an issue with that. But DeShaun Watson just chimed in on this conversation saying the Bears never once talked to me, never once in capitals. So I retweet that saying, meanwhile, this just in from the 2017 NFL draft. Because this to me, even though it's now being made about Watson's veracity, this to me has to do with not Watson, not Mahomes. It's got to do with Trubisky. Because I tweet that out, again, this just in about from 2017 draft, because that would be absolutely insane if the Bears had never once talked to DeShaun Watson and then traded up to get Trubisky one spot. And now we're seeing Watson and Mahomes do what they're doing. Again, in doing what they're doing, We have not batted an eye. Nobody has. That the NFL decided to open the 2020 season with a matchup between DeShaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. They could have easily said, we're going to raise the banner in Kansas City on Sunday night, but we're opening up Brady versus Breeze. And told Fox, you'll get the other game later in the season, but NBC is going to get the first Brady versus Breeze in the way that they're getting the second. They could have easily said, we're opening up the 2020 season with the biggest piece of filet mignon possible. Brady's first game as a Buccaneer, and he's taking on Breeze. There's two of them. We'll give one to NBC here, and Fox, you can get the one later in the season. They could have easily done it. And instead, they went, because last year, if you remember, they went Bears-Packers to open the NFL 100 season and then raised the banner in New England on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Could have basically said that worked out so well last year. Thursday night is no longer for raising the banner for the Super Bowl. It's going to be whatever we feel is such a great matchup. Brady Breeze could have done it. Instead, no. They're going back to the tradition of the Super Bowl winner hosting the first game, first Thursday night game, first game of the season. And what are we going to do? We're going to get Watson and Mahomes. And none of us are, we're all like, absolutely, we're all in. These two dynamite quarterbacks, let's see it. It's the 21st century, and the kids are all right, and let's go. And the problem is that the Bears went with the other guy over these two. So when Watson says this, I retweet. I'm like, hey, this just in for the 2017 NFL draft. And then I'm beginning to see from a whole bunch of people a tweet from back in the day, from 2017, that Watson said in the lead up to the draft, he spoke to the Bears. And I'm like, how about that? And then I looked, oh my God, that was a tweet that Brockman sent out during the interview on the Rich Eisen show.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. So it was our shit. So I text you. I'm like, can you look up that video, please?
Yeah.
And you're sitting around Friday night looking up the video.
Yeah.
And this was the moment on the show in 2017. Which teams have you visited? Let's walk through it. Which teams have knocked on the DeShaun Watson door? Say, let's chat. Give me some names, please.
I have the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, the San Fran 49ers, Arizona Cardinals, and then Houston Texans, the Jets, and the Buffalo Bills. And I've talked to some teams on the phone, like Chicago and Baltimore, and just a whole bunch of different teams that kind of just checking in on me.
Have the Los Angeles Chargers checked in on you?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about them.
Okay, yeah.
The Chargers.
So there you have it. So now I put that out there, and Doug Gottlieb puts it out there in the direction of Quincy Avery, who is also very vocal on this subject because he's Watson's throwing coach. And Watson's throwing coach was saying essentially that every year players are instructed by their agent to leverage the media so that teams feel that there is more competition in the marketplace that there really is. And that was liked by DeShaun Watson. So, look, if DeShaun used me to get out the fact that the Bears and him were talking to try and get interest, buzz, you know, I guess I got used. That's fine. I mean, he seems like he was being honest about everything at the time, and I don't know what buzz you need to create by saying the Bears when you're mentioning 5 or 10 other teams where none of them. Look, I don't want this to be about the veracity of DeShaun Watson, even though many people makes it that way, and all it's going to do for DeShaun Watson is nothing because he's going to get paid $35 million plus, and he's deserving of everything that's come his way, and he's starting the season for a reason because he's dynamite. To me, this is all about Trubisky. And that is, I know I had fun with it at the opening of the show the day after last Friday when we came off the schedule. That's going to be, everybody's going to be pulling up a chair to watch that game except for the Browns front office. I mean, the Bears front office and Chicagoans. Because if he didn't talk to the Bears, and he's saying today that the Bears never once talked to him, even though the Bears went to his pro day en masse, and they never sat down with him?
Seems unlikely.
It seems unlikely, and he did say that he spoke to him at least once on the phone. But to me, they still didn't choose him. And whether he did speak to him or not, the Bears chose somebody else, and that guy's going to have a ton of pressure on him, man. Another Chicagoan with a last dance that we're ready to talk about. I'll tell you that. But that was interesting that all of a sudden, right in the middle, Friday night, Saturday, I'm like, okay, one from the vault. And by the way, it looks weird with me not having any facial hair.
I thought the same thing when I pulled up that
Have
video.
we gotten to that point that I've worn this long enough that it's now weird to see me without it?
The baby face is...
baby face rich.
I don't like the baby face.
How about that? Well, neither does Susie, so what you see is what you're going to get. I want to thank Bruce Feldman, Mark Jackson, BJ Armstrong, and Charlie Blackmon. Our final poll results over there, Christopher, here on this Monday show, please.
Yeah, people are watching The Last Dance and like Michael Jordan better, 68%.
Tomorrow's show, Cal Ripken Jr., everybody, will be our first guest up. Also on tomorrow's show, Chris Jericho will join us on this program. We have a great week set up for everybody. David Spade's going to be on it as well. Check out our fan page at Rich Eisen Show for more. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial every day. Please dial it again tomorrow. On behalf of everybody here, we say we'll see you on NBCSN YouTube and SiriusXM on Tuesday.